The university hospital loomed before him, its cold, sterile walls rising like a fortress beneath a sky that offered no comfort. Yisak stepped forward, but his body felt disconnected, like a puppet moving without strings. Inside his mind, the doctor's voice echoed again, repeating the cruel verdict. A rare disease, no cure, 6 months. The weight of those words crushed him, pressing into his chest like an iron slab. His name, Yisak, had been rewritten by fate, reduced to a fleeting whisper in time. The world around him continued its relentless march. Strangers brushed past, their faces blurred, indifferent. He was already a ghost, drifting along the edges of existence, unseen, unnoticed. The sharp beep of a crossing signal snapped him out of his daze. The sound was a cruel taunt, reminding him of the years he had spent chasing dreams, believing that hard work would eventually reward him. And now, time mocked him. The reward had come too late. Someone shoved him aside, scolding him for standing in the middle of the road. He barely registered it. What did danger matter to a man already sentenced to die? He dropped to his knees, his fingers curling around the crumpled slip of paper in his palm. The lottery ticket, the symbol of a future filled with possibility, now nothing more than a twisted joke. He had won everything, only to lose the one thing that mattered. A choked sob escaped him, then a desperate scream, raw, primal, torn from his soul. He didn't care if anyone heard. He didn't care if the world kept turning without him. He just needed something, anything, to defy fate. His voice shattered the dusk, a plea carved into the air. Someone, anyone, save me. I don't want to die. Consciousness flooded back, but something was terribly wrong. He wasn't himself, at least, not the him he remembered. He was taller now, thinner, and terrifyingly bald. No, not just bald, skeletal. His bony fingers flexed, his hollow eyes scanned the battlefield, and an unsettling realization dawned upon him. He had become something else. Around him lay the grotesque remains of creatures, monsters that had once fought against him. Their bodies sprawled across the ground, defeated, twisted in unnatural angles. But the battle wasn't over yet. The survivors, those last foolish fiends, were closing in. A grin, stretched wide across his bony face, took shape. He didn't just tolerate the slaughter, he loved it. With each swing of his blade, another beast fell. Every strike felt like poetry, every dodge like a dance. They thought they could win? Oh, how he reveled in their naivety. One final creature lunged at him in desperation. He sidestepped smoothly, his skeletal body moving with an eerie grace. The monster didn't even have time to regret its decision before his blade sliced clean through it. And then, silence. The rebellion was done, over, finished. The last of them lay dead before him. He took in the destruction, the sheer scale of his victory. From being a lowly summon, a basic skeleton with barely enough strength to hold a sword, he had risen, transformed, become something greater. An undead lich, a ruler of demonkind. He had led them out of ruin, given them purpose, and in return, they worshipped him. Or, tried to. Izak, all hail King Izak, they chanted with unwavering devotion. He sighed. He was their king, yes, their almighty, fearsome leader. But, my name is Yisak, he muttered under his breath. Not that it mattered. These fools had mangled his name so many times he had long stopped correcting them. The resentment lingered, but greater desires beckoned him forward. He wasn't meant to be trapped in this skeletal prison. He was supposed to be human, flesh, blood, warmth. He turned away, ignoring their praise. He had no interest in their misguided worship. His mission wasn't to rule. It was to reclaim what was lost. To be able to eat again, to feel pain, to truly live. Yisak dropped the monster's head onto the ground. Silence filled the air. They stared at him, stunned, their expressions frozen in shock. None had expected such a swift, brutal victory. But he did not care for their reactions. His goal lay beyond this moment. His journey had led him here, to the divine realm, a celestial court where beings of immense power ruled over existence itself. Towering figures of godly strength sat upon thrones, their eyes full of judgment, their voices laced with arrogance. He could hear them, the sneers, the taunts that echoed through the grand halls. Yisak stepped forward. He had done what they had asked. He had crushed the rebellious factions, silencing those who dared defy their divine authority. His end of the bargain had been fulfilled, and he had come to claim the reward they had promised. Yet as he moved through the court, whispers slithered through the air. He caught them, murmurs of disdain, hints of surprise at how quickly he had succeeded. But more than that, he heard their treachery. They had no intention of keeping their word. They wanted to bind him, to trap him in eternal servitude. The realization did not shake him. He had expected their deception, but that did not mean he would accept it. He stood before them and demanded what was his, the restoration of his humanity, the return of what had been taken from him. They tried to stall. They spoke of another task, another errand to serve their grand design. Their false offers meant nothing to him. A slow, chilling grin spread across his skeletal face, void of warmth but full of warning. They questioned him, his sanity, his boldness. How could he challenge them? How could he dare to defy gods? They did not understand. He was no ordinary being. He was forged from forbidden arts, free from the natural laws that bound the living and the divine alike. He could not be destroyed. Even here, in their sacred realm, he was a danger. If they would not honor their promise, then they would suffer the consequences. They pleaded, grasping for time, for compromise. They attempted to bargain, throwing out hollow words in desperation, but he did not hear them. For their betrayal, he would exact a heavy price, their lives. With a wicked laugh, he unleashed his fury. A storm of dark energy erupted from his being, consuming the divine court in a relentless wave of destruction. The gods screamed, their voices filled with fear and pain. But he only laughed. Their suffering was his triumph. He had waited for this moment, his revenge against those who had betrayed him. Then, something changed. A strange sensation crept through him, dulling his power. His mana, the very source of his strength, was fading. His movements slowed. His body refused to respond. What was this? A voice rang out, smug and confident. It came from above, from the gods who had set this trap. They revealed the cause of his sudden weakness, a holy artifact inscribed with his name. It had the power to immobilize any being. But there was something else. They did not speak his true name. They spoke of the one written on the artifact, Izak. Before he could react, they invoked the highest-class holy art, banished disaster. He felt it instantly. His demonic essence was being torn from him, sealed away. He will be imprisoned within a lowly insect. Rage filled him. He railed against the injustice, against the humiliation of being trapped in something so weak, so repulsive. How dare they do this to him? Yet even as he fumed, one of the gods spoke, questioning his obsession with his lost hair. It was a simple remark, yet it sparked something within him. And then, despite their efforts to seal him away, despite their certainty that he was powerless, he moved. They watched in disbelief. He could still act. Yisak refused to accept such a humiliating fate. He would not live as a mere insect, trapped in a form so pitiful and weak. If he could not reclaim his humanity, he would rather cease to exist altogether. Summoning the last of his power, he unleashed it in one final act of defiance. His energy erupted in a blinding explosion, shaking the very foundations of the divine court. The force tore through the space around him, consuming everything in its path. Pain surged through him. Everything exploded. The gods, caught in the blast, staggered from the impact. But as the dust settled, they realized their spell had worked. The Demon King's soul remained sealed. He was trapped within the insect. It was done. Relief washed over them. Their power had returned, their authority secure once more. But even in victory, they did not relax. They knew that another threat like Yisak, a skeleton king, could rise again. They could not afford to lower their defenses. So, they devised a plan. A vessel would be created, a saint in the human realm. This chosen one would stand as the ultimate defense against the forces of darkness. The gods would ensure that no demon would ever rise again. As for Yisak, his punishment would be eternal. Trapped in the body of a feeble insect, he would suffer for the rest of time. They had won, and he would pay, forever. Lost in his despair, Yisak found himself in a strange, unfamiliar world. It was bathed in an unnaturally bright light, far different from the darkness he had known before. His brain scrambled for answers. Had the gods finally lost their grip on him? Had he, against all odds, escaped their eternal grasp? Then, a more pressing horror struck him. He had hands, chubby, small human hands. He wiggled his fingers in disbelief. This was all wrong. Just yesterday. Was it yesterday? He had been a walking skeleton, a mere whisper of a being. Now, he was stuck in what appeared to be a child's body, plump and healthy. Was this some cosmic joke? A group of unfamiliar faces loomed over him, their expressions a mix of awe and unsettling joy. "The saint has awakened," they cried, their voices trembling with eerie excitement. Saint? Him? Yisak eyed them warily. Their happiness seemed almost forced, like actors in a play where they'd been handed roles they didn't agree with. Then, it got worse. "You must return to sleep," one of them murmured, the words carrying more weight than they should. Return to sleep? Forever? Yisak suddenly wasn't a fan of naps. Before he could demand an explanation, someone shoved a baby bottle towards him, filled with something suspiciously murky. His pulse quickened. That wasn't a formula. That was doom in a bottle. He stared at them, then at the bottle. Was this supposed to be his grand ending? Again? The man held out the bottle again, his expression unreadable. Yisak felt his pulse quicken. Something was wrong, very wrong. That bottle wasn't just an innocent offer, it was a trap. He dodged it like it was a flaming arrow. His movements were sharp, deliberate. Thought they could trick him into drinking whatever suspicious sleep potion they had brewed up. Did they think he was born yesterday? Actually, given recent events, that wasn't entirely inaccurate. He wouldn't drink it. Not now, not ever. They whispered among themselves, baffled. Why was the child refusing? He was supposed to take the bottle, supposed to drink the potion, supposed to fall into their carefully laid plan. But instead, he was standing there like a defiant cat. Yisak, no, wait. Isaac? That's what they called him. The name tickled something deep in his mind. No, that wasn't it. Idzak. Yes, that was his name, or, well, another way to say it. Yisak, Izak. The difference wasn't much, but it had been enough. When they had cast the spell, banished disaster, he hadn't been sealed because they had written his name the wrong way. Classic villain mistake. If only they had triple-checked their magical paperwork. A rookie error. And now? Now he was alive. Reincarnated into a human body. He had escaped. Their grand plan crumbling before their very eyes. Their target, this surprisingly strong child, was slipping through their fingers. They had failed. And Yisak was free. For now. They shoved the revolting green slop down Isaac's throat. It tasted like betrayal. He tried to resist, but they held him firm, forcing every drop into his mouth. Then, he felt it, a strange sensation creeping through his body. Something unnatural was taking hold. Isaac wasn't sure what was happening, but one thing was clear, this wasn't just any juice. In the grand halls of the Holy Empire Hela, Bishop Martin strutted forward with the confidence of a man who knew something no one else did, or at least thought he did. He dramatically, emphasizing his self-importance as he spoke of a baby, no ordinary infant, but a saint candidate whose time on this earth seemed limited. Then came the emperor himself, Alexander Hela, the man who could silence a room just by existing. His entrance was nothing short of cinematic. If power could take physical form, it would probably look like him. The officials greeted him with the kind of nervous reverence one reserves for someone who could. Martin, ever the dedicated bishop, declared his intention to greet the saint candidate of House Yeshua. Protocol and divine duty demanded it, or at least that was the excuse he gave. The emperor waved away the concern with the ease of a man who knew far more than he let on. His gaze was sharp, full of knowing. Was he suspicious? Did he suspect that something had gone terribly wrong? Then chaos struck. A panicked voice rang through the halls, a maid, nearly tripping over herself in her haste. She gasped, eyes wide in horror and disbelief. "The young master," she shrieked. "He's alive, and oddly energetic?" The officials, the emperor, and the ever-smirking Martin rushed to the source of the disruption. And there was the baby, the very saint candidate whose demise had been all but guaranteed. Except now, instead of being pale and frail, he looked downright adorable. Chubby cheeks, sparkling eyes, a vitality that no one could explain. Martin's smile faltered. This wasn't right. This wasn't possible. It was a lot of vegetable juice, more than anyone should consume, but that wasn't the problem. Martin's heart skipped a beat. That wasn't just juice. It was holy poison. A poison that should have turned the child into a tragic prophecy. A few minutes ago, Isaac had been drinking juice when something strange happened. He felt something enter his body. It wasn't just any ordinary sensation. It was like someone had switched on a power supply inside him. The holy poison meant to destroy the sacred energy of the clergy was now flowing through him, but instead of harm, it brought power. Why? Because this poison was crafted from demonic mana. And for a former demon king? Well, this was basically a free lunch. Deep inside him, the Skeleton King, his past self, was practically blushing with joy. This was incredible. He could eat all the baby food he wanted. The child let out gleeful cries, his demands for more of the deadly juice shocking the onlookers. Instead of stopping him, they happily handed over more. Why not? He seemed fine. As he gulped it down, his body absorbed the mana perfectly, as if this entire situation was a cosmic joke. Now, where to go from here? He had to concentrate. He was drifting through the unconscious world, the deepest depths of his being, his source. He needed to form a mana core, a safe place to store the immense energy he was taking in. He began pulling all the mana together, shaping it into something solid. This was necessary. Without a mana core, he couldn't use magic. But there was one pressing problem. Would this thing explode? Usually mana cores came in 3 primary colors. His, however, was a glaring white. That was unexpected. But color wasn't the real concern. How in the world was this much power fitting into a core that wasn't even fully formed yet? This was beyond anything he had anticipated. The power was enormous. Just how much divine and demonic energy had been stuffed into this tiny body? If he grew up properly, he might become an even bigger monster than he had ever imagined. He felt the force surge inside him, a single word rising to the surface: Isaac. He pointed ahead and uttered a single command: survive. That desperate, unyielding instinct was imprinted deep within his soul, and in the end, that became the true beginning of the Skeleton King. With this surge of energy, he was able to craft his own original buffs and skills, things never seen before, and Isaac, the baby, would inherit them, whether the world was ready or not. That was another matter entirely. They stared at him, waiting, wondering. Was this the moment? Had he finally succumbed? Nope, not even close. Isaac was very much alive and thriving, if his energetic wriggling was anything to go by. His chubby hands reached forward, not for comfort or reassurance, but for more bottles, stronger ones. Whatever unholy juice had turned him into this unstoppable force, he wanted more. And then, there it was. That mischievous smile, that laugh, a little too troubling for a baby. The kind of laugh that sent a chill down spines and raised serious questions about what exactly this tiny menace would grow into. Back in the present, everyone let out a breath. Thankfully, nothing terrible had happened. Sure, Isaac had almost been assassinated, but hey, small victories. He was still sitting there, very much not dead. Martin, however, was staring at him, narrowing his eyes in deep suspicion. Why was the kid looking at him like that? Did he know something? Maybe Isaac had guzzled down too much of that juice, holy poison, miracle elixir, whatever it was, but now was not the time for mistakes. He had to play it cool. Suspicion was dangerous, and Isaac couldn't afford to be caught looking too aware of his own survival. No, he had to do what all brilliant schemers did in moments of tension: smile. A big, dumb, baby smile, as innocent as a cherub, completely clueless, as if he had no idea what was going on. But Martin wasn't fooled. His face twisted in frustration, his anger bubbling over as he glared at Isaac. This bastard, he should be dying, coughing up blood. Except Isaac wasn't dying. He wasn't coughing, choking, gasping for air, or dramatically collapsing like Martin expected. No, instead of fading into oblivion like any normal victim of poisoning, Isaac was laughing. A bright, bubbly, joyous laugh. The sheer audacity of it was maddening. Martin's teeth clenched. This child was an absolute menace. A few days earlier, at the grand headquarters of the Holy See, a man, Ray Barrett, a cardinal with a knack for arrogance, scoffed at the idea of a saint running the Holy Empire. He thought the noble families were annoying, throwing around the title of saint for their children like it meant nothing. A bishop assured him that the other saint candidates were being taken care of. Ray Barrett brought up a troubling rumor. People were saying a saint candidate had appeared from House Yeshua, the emperor's closest ally, the emperor's right hand. There was nothing they could do about it. Ray crushed his wineglass in his hand, spilling dark red liquid everywhere. He didn't care. The saint candidate had probably died before they even arrived, but he had to see the body to be sure. He had acted first to make sure they wouldn't survive. The title of saint could only belong to his House Barrett, and only House Barrett. Martin had been told the baby would be dead, but Isaac was still alive. This wasn't supposed to happen. This was not the plan. The emperor regarded the situation with intrigue, leaned forward, his gaze lingering on the child's radiant platinum blonde hair, a startling resemblance as the Holy Empire's legendary founder. The bishop stepped forward to intervene, but the emperor pressed on, remarking that the child bore an even closer resemblance to divinity than the current pope. Isaac turned his eyes to the emperor. With unwavering certainty, the emperor declared that the child must be the final saint candidate. The revelation struck Isaac. This baby, the one they called saint, was the true candidate. It suddenly made sense. The baby? Of course. That's why everyone kept calling him saint. The emperor's fascination with the child deepened, and the bishop knew he had to act. Martin urgently requested permission to examine the infant, insisting something was amiss. After all, how could a baby possibly consume such an excessive amount of vegetable juice? And yet, wasn't it strange? Saint candidates eating monk food, the demon king himself ending up as a saint candidate? Nothing made sense. It defied reason. Still, Martin was granted permission to inspect the child, at least until someone from House Yeshua arrived. Isaac felt the demonic energy swirling inside him like a bad case of indigestion. Oh no, he burped, loudly. His eyes widened in horror as he snapped his mouth shut. Had anyone noticed? Was he busted? The bishop narrowed his gaze. He had noticed something. He sensed traces of demonic energy coming from the child. How odd. This was no ordinary saint candidate. Was this child a fraud? A fake chosen one bearing manna? The bishop stiffened. This required immediate investigation. Such audacity, to speak of a saint candidate in that manner. Yet, was there any real need for alarm? The Pope had already selected the child from House Barrett, his own bloodline, as the saint. How brazen. The shamelessness. So this was why his motive was to remove the boy from the competition. Martin wasted no time. He ordered the priests to summon an inquisitor. But then, wait. House Yeshua stood as the imperial family's closest ally. The emperor intervened, proposing that the child be re-evaluated at a later time. The bishop frowned. He recalled his conversation with the pope. The investiture ceremony for the crown prince would only happen after the saint selection, a political move. The pope wouldn't officially recognize his own son unless his saint choice was accepted. Was this all part of the Holy See's grand scheme? Isaac had no desire to remain a saint candidate. It was far too dangerous. His true identity was at risk of being exposed. At any moment they could invoke their holy exorcism art to inspect the child. If he were human, he'd remain unharmed. But if he were a demon, extermination would be immediate. He couldn't allow that to happen. He had no choice but to play along. Without hesitation, Isaac struck Martin with a baby bottle. Martin reeled in shock. How could something so simple cause such pain? That light. Was it holy power? The child must truly be the saint. No, it wasn't possible. Yet he could feel it, divine energy radiating from within the child. But this sensation, what was it? It burned. Isaac wasn't about to stop now. He unleashed an onslaught of baby bottles, hurling them at the bishop like divine missiles. Relentless, unstoppable. The bishop staggered back. This was definitely mana. But it wasn't just mana, it was radiant. Brilliant. Almost too powerful to comprehend. Isaac grinned internally. Just a little more, reinforcing the bottle with strengthening magic, preparing for one final strike. He would maintain the facade of an innocent infant while delivering the decisive blow. Surely the bishop must have been marveling at his supposed holy power. What was this? Each time he channeled mana, a faint trace of holy power surfaced alongside it. That wasn't supposed to happen. Mana and holy power were like oil and water, completely incompatible, never meant to coexist. Was this because of that strange white mana core? Something wasn't adding up. The bishop recoiled in horror. He swore on everything sacred. This baby was a heretic. The holy exorcism art must be invoked at once. Isaac narrowed his eyes. You slimy piece of dirt. He hadn't intended to push things this far, but here they were. Then, something caught his attention. Isaac squinted. Oh, you slimy little snake. The bishop was concealing something fascinating. His tiny hands reached forward, diving straight into the bishop's robes. The bishop barely had time to react before Isaac pulled out something very interesting, a totem. The bishop stiffened, stunned by the revelation. This wasn't just any artifact, it was designed to mimic the nature of demons, who consumed the corpses of their own kind to absorb their mana. A sealed high-ranking demon's remains. A totem. The bishop carried it always, a safeguard against demons should he ever cross paths with one. But how? How had this infant uncovered his secret? Panic took hold. The bishop tried to flee. Isaac could hardly believe it. Isaac wasn't about to let him off the hook that easily. With a flick of his wrist he chucked the totem onto the floor, letting it clatter loudly. This was the consequence of Martin's relentless pursuit. With a snap of his fingers, demonic energy surged, chaos erupted. The room filled with screams as a massive demonic beast clawed its way into existence, its presence drowning the air in dark energy. Isaac smirked, crossing his little baby arms. Parry this, you filthy casual. The Emperor's gaze hardened as he leveled his accusation against Bishop Martin Barrett, questioning his sanity for allowing a demon to rampage within the sacred temple walls. The bishop, scrambling for defense, insisted that the baby had thrown the totem, the artifact meant to seal the beast. Yet how had the creature come back to life? The Emperor wasted no time. He commanded all forces to protect the young lord, shielding him from both the wicked demon and the bishop. Martin stood frozen, overwhelmed by shock and confusion. Isaac let out a sinister laugh, his expression sharp with amusement. "Joke's on you, fool," he sneered. He was eager to see just how capable the bishop really was. Then, the demon roared into existence, its command clear: kill the saint. He had literally saved this thing's life, and it was still trying to kill him? Ungrateful much? The knights rushed forward, forming a defensive line around Isaac. What was this demon's problem? It kept shrieking about some captured king. The paladin should be able to handle this, right? Right? Wrong. The paladins struggled. Hard. They faltered, unable to withstand the sheer power of the creature. Was the knight truly a paladin? The demon pressed on with its assault, urging them to rescue the captured king. Isaac knew he had to act. If he subdued the beast, no one would question him using magic in the chaos. And honestly, what was with everyone trying to kill him in this life? Even after he had revived it, was this destiny forcing its hand? Could he truly be the skeleton king? With an unexpected burst of power, Isaac subdued the rampaging demon. Gasps rippled through the crowd. He had done it. But how? He was just as perplexed as they were. Holy energy radiated from his touch, pushing back the beast. The Emperor's astonishment was evident. Holy power, Unmistakable. The demon recoiled, seeking escape, its very essence repelled by divine energy. Young Lord Isaac had forced out a greater demon. It was remarkable for someone so young. As expected of him, this had to be holy power. Yet Isaac's thoughts churned with uncertainty. His mana was depleted, so how had he accomplished this? Was his strange body converting mana into holy power? If that were the case, how could he possibly replenish his mana when the Holy Empire lacked it? Martin was seized. He was warned, his actions would not go unpunished. That baby had wielded the power of demonkind, and yet he dared to stand within the Holy Empire? The bishop vowed to prove his suspicions to the emperor, to uncover the child's true identity through an exorcism. "That's enough," the emperor declared, his voice cutting through the room with finality. How dare the bishop falsely accuse an innocent saint candidate while unleashing a greater demon before the imperial knights? The emperor would not let this slide, not even for the Holy See. If his suspicions deepened, the infiltrator would soon be exposed, and if that happened, the Holy See itself would be in jeopardy. Responsibility had to be taken, even if it meant death for the bishop. That was why he had to eliminate the saint candidate from House Yeshua. Finally, the bishop revealed his true colors. Did he really believe he could kill Isaac so easily? But, wait, Isaac had no mana left. Martin's wolf-like creature lunged. It was swiftly cut down. Then a voice rang out, strong and unyielding. Who dares lay a hand on the direct lineage of Yeshua? The sound of clashing swords erupted. Blue Faith had arrived, the knights of House Yeshua. At their head stood Riley, the seventh son of House Yeshua. Without hesitation, he ordered the immediate execution of the bishop. Martin struggled against the knights, his voice sharp with rage. "Unhand me, do not lay your filthy Yeshua hands on me." Isaac stilled at the name, Yeshua. It felt strangely familiar. Riley turned to his knights, commanding them to show proper manners. "Greetings to the young master of House Yeshua." He bowed before Isaac, offering his apologies for arriving late. Isaac observed them and commented, "Finally, someone competent. They were better than the Imperial Knights." "It isn't much," Riley said, "but we brought a small gift." Isaac's thoughts raced. Gold? A gold bar? Surely it had to be gold. No. It was a figurine. A figurine of the Skeleton King being beheaded. Isaac stared at it, horrified. Then they pulled out another one, a depiction of the Skeleton King being burned alive. And yet another, one where the Saintess crushed the Skeleton King beneath her heel. The knights beamed at him, their admiration clear. The young master is adorable. So adorable. Isaac's mind reeled. How was he supposed to survive in a household as utterly insane as this? The knights teased him, delighted with his expression. And to his horror, the young master liked it. He liked it so much that he began to cry. They marveled at the young lord's delight, his cries echoing his joy as he clutched the figurine. How was he supposed to survive in this chaotic family? Isaac recalled the name Yeshua, the saintess who had once come to end him in a past life. The 45 Saintess Yeshua, the 61 as Saint Yeshua, they all carried some form of the name. Not only was he a saint candidate, but he was also part of the saint family. What sins had he committed in his past life to deserve this? Damn these people. Martin accused the house of Yeshua of heresy for bringing a creature into the temple. He was convinced they had smuggled a monstrous creature into the temple, referring to Isaac, of course. What an honor. Yeshua has gone mad, he shouted, practically foaming at the mouth. This will be the end of the Yeshua bloodline. Riley struck Martin down, warning him to be grateful for Yeshua's mercy, for sparing his neck after such foolish words. Isaac mused on Riley's usefulness. Riley had efficiently dispatched Martin simply because he had insulted the family. Did he have the confidence to take on the Holy See? The knights, ever dedicated to their jobs, leaned in and whispered to the young lord, "Best to only hear and see good things, little one." Isaac's memories sharpened. The Blue Faith. They were formidable. His subordinates always panicked when they saw the blue ones. The Skeleton King's neck drop was rumored to be a thing of legend. Isaac briefly considered telling them to stop teasing him about it already. It seemed the emperor owed the child a debt. Alexander asked if they could inform the head of Yeshua that the imperial palace wished to raise the child. His jokes were too much, Riley muttered. Was Isaac being scouted by the imperial palace? The emperor explained the Holy Empire would inevitably target the child, both internally and externally. While Yeshua was powerful, could the present Blue Faith protect the child? Isaac listened. What was he talking about? The emperor continued, especially the pope, who would disapprove. The child's hair color bore significance, symbolizing the ancestors of the Holy Empire, and the Skeleton King seemed to be after him. Isaac squinted. But I am the Skeleton King. Why would I be after myself? Riley apologized to the emperor, insisting that the child, as a Yeshua, must be raised by Yeshua. The pope, the Skeleton King, Yeshua could handle them. If they ever crossed paths with the Skeleton King again, the previous Saintess, Melissa, would be pleased. How could he allow the direct descendant of Saintess Melissa to be taken by the Imperial Palace? Wait, Melissa. The Melissa he fought before entering the Divine Realm, the lunatic Saintess, the hardest opponent. So he was born into the Saintess family, a saint candidate, and now, Melissa's direct descendant. Isaac groaned internally. This kept getting worse. What was a saint, or a saintess? The gods, desperate to defeat the Skeleton King, had crafted their final weapon, a saint, the embodiment of divine will to vanquish evil, a battlefield lion, a wielder of holy light. The Holy Empire's brightest star, the highest-ranking knight. The saintess was so powerful that people believed the Skeleton King's days were numbered. Her abilities rivaled the gods. She had cockroach-tier survival abilities. She self-destructed if necessary. She grew stronger with each generation. She was a goddess of beauty. She lived unnaturally long. But the Skeleton King was merciless. He had never killed a saint, not out of kindness, but because it wasn't worth the hassle. The moment a saint perished, the gods simply sent an updated, more infuriating version. But Melissa, the last saintess, she was terrifying. He had nearly died, and she was his ancestor. Riley smiled. The saints live only to destroy the Skeleton King. Yeshua produces the saintesses and fulfills the will of the gods. They are a proud family. Yeshua has the power to protect this child. He was right. Many saints had been martyred by the Skeleton King. Isaac hadn't slain a single one. There was an unfortunate history here. The Skeleton King, him, had banished a saint once, not because she wasn't strong enough, but because she kept getting lost. Was it his fault she was bad with directions? 5 had died from stress-related illnesses. Maybe they should have visited a healer. Riley assured Isaac, "It's okay. They were grateful you were born. They only wished one thing, that you wouldn't grow up like the terrible Skeleton King." Ah, the irony. Parents he had never known. He regretted being a bad person. The Emperor urged him to reconsider. It had been 150 years since the Skeleton King had been sealed away. Had it really been that long? In that case, Melissa should have died ages ago. She was 50 during their last fight. Then again, considering her sheer willpower, maybe not. Meanwhile, demons had grown stronger. The saint was a vital asset to the Holy Empire, a force to strengthen its power. Isaac himself was significant to the Imperial Palace. Besides, there was no active saint in Yeshua. It had been a year since the saintess gave birth to Isaac and vanished alongside his father. His mother was a saintess. Isaac gasped. Riley responded to the Emperor, "That may be so, but the matriarch still lives. Yeshua will protect the child." All right, let's get all the surprises out now, Isaac thought. Nothing could shock him more than learning his mother was a saint. Dame Melissa was hunting the Skeleton King's subordinates. She would return soon. The matriarch was expecting her grandson. But there was one lingering problem. Melissa was still alive. A woman over 200 years old, fueled by sheer battle instincts. Surely she had some level of regret, some desire to retire? It would take time for her return. Isaac felt off. Was he okay? Would he be fine knowing his greatest enemy still lived? If Melissa discovered the truth, she would smite him instantly. Others might hesitate, but Melissa, she was too dangerous. So, to survive, he would go with them. Isaac clutched Alexander's finger. He wanted to go to the Imperial Palace. But he's just being clingy, Riley scoffed. The Imperial Palace could provide much for the young lord. Yeshua had experience producing saints, but not raising one, a baby saint. This child was destined to be an exorcist knight, a vanquisher of evil. Yeshua had produced the greatest exorcist knights. He was the first ever saint, but the Imperial Palace lacked experience too. Emperor Alexander declared, "The Imperial Palace is better." Riley countered, "He will remain in Yeshua." Alexander and Riley clasped hands. Isaac stuck between them. They were warned to settle down, or risk tearing the young lord in half. Isaac wanted to go to the Imperial Palace. He didn't want to die. And the light tied to survival's essence, it had come from the Emperor all along. His best chance was with the Emperor. He couldn't miss this opportunity. The Emperor praised him. "A wise choice, young lord." Isaac marveled. What was this? Then came Martin, ever the problem. That thing used mana, referring to Isaac. It is clearly a spawn of demons. A cloaked man sneered. "Holy power comes from the gods themselves. Are you claiming the gods gifted their sacred power to a mere demon?" A sword appeared. Martin flinched. It was mana. How had he mistaken it for holy power? "The holy city calls that kind of talk." The man struck Martin. Martin shrieked, "Your Eminence." "That's blasphemy." The conspirators whispered among themselves, recognizing the Emperor's claim over the child. They would bide their time, waiting for an opportunity within the royal palace. They were certain the child wouldn't survive. Isaac, oblivious to it all, lay peacefully, unaware of the danger, until he suddenly stirred, sensing something was terribly wrong. Isaac had made up his mind. He knew he had to go to Yeshua. No debates, no negotiations, just pure survival instinct. A carriage sped through the roads, its wheels kicking up dust as it raced toward its destination. The conspirators, caught off guard, murmured about the abrupt change in plans. A flashback revealed the cause, a brilliant light bursting forth from Isaac's room just days prior. In that moment, the Emperor had cradled Isaac in his arms, commenting on the sheer intensity of the light. He insisted that Yeshua was no place to raise a child. Riley, however, disagreed, claiming that their house wasn't just a sanctuary for manacores, it was the closest to demons. Isaac pondered whether the origin of survival was shining, their most valued possession. His eyes widened as he realized what they held. The body of the Skeleton King, his former body. How had they come to possess it? Of all the topics to discuss, was this truly the first priority? Testing his ability to communicate, Isaac voiced his unwavering desire to go to Yeshua. Riley, startled but pleased, repeated his name. Meanwhile, Isaac was doing some mental gymnastics. This journey was an opportunity. If Yeshua had his old body, he had a chance to reclaim it, and once he did, he'd be unstoppable. That body had accumulated enough mana to fight against the gods. Yes, following his uncle to Yeshua was, unquestionably, the best move for survival. As the carriage thundered forward, Riley and the Paladin discussed why the Holy See remained relentless in its pursuit of Isaac. Riley explained, "The gods gave a prophecy. The saint will be taken in as the son of a god. He's destined to become the next pope." That explained everything. House Barrett had spent years, generations, trying to birth a saint to secure the pope's position. The pope was no ordinary cleric. The pope wielded rank 10 holy spells. He was, essentially, the supreme king of all clerics and paladins. House Barrett had been producing popes for thousands of years, and now, thanks to the prophecy, that position was being handed over to a saint, Isaac. House Barrett was furious, naturally. And they weren't the only ones. Other noble houses had also been scrambling to produce a saint. Upon reaching the mansion, they were met with unexpected resistance. Guards blocked their path, their expressions tense. Though they recognized the crest of House Yeshua, they refused to let them pass. A high-ranking official soon arrived, his presence casting a long shadow. He revealed a chilling truth: they intended to eliminate the child who bore the blood of the saints. Before anyone could react, the guards twisted, contorted, then transformed. They were no longer human, they were demons, and they were attacking. Isaac's mind raced. Could this be the work of a new demon king? The ban on attacking human territories was still in effect. Was it being ignored? The demons snarled, proclaiming their glorious king's command: all saints and saintesses must be killed. A new demon king had indeed emerged, one following the orders of the great skeleton king, Lord Izak. Their mission? Destroy the saint. Isaac froze, bewildered by the revelation. Why was his name spoken among them? What was happening? The demons made their final offer: surrender the child, and their lives would be spared. Riley answered with steel. His blade struck a demon down, but another scoffed at his defiance. Riley, ever the resolute knight of Yeshua, vowed they would not perish so easily, not after hearing such blasphemy. He rallied his troops, his voice booming with conviction. Yeshua would purge this evil. They would chase the demons into the depths of hell, erasing them from existence, including the Skeleton King, who doomed his followers simply to evade mortality. One demon sneered, hurling insults at the Skeleton King. A knight lunged but narrowly missed, apologizing to the young master for his failure. Isaac, thoroughly perplexed, wondered who was impersonating him. A paladin swiftly retreated with Isaac, instructing him to wait. He conjured a formidable barrier, strong enough to withstand even the mightiest demons. But Isaac soon realized the flaw. Nothing inside could escape. He activated his survival origin, unleashing his magic. He needed help. He called upon the Observing One, desperate for an answer. A presence stirred. The entity responded eagerly, its voice ringing through his mind. Isaac exhaled in relief. He had feared the worst. The Observing One introduced itself as Ascension Detection Magic, designed for rapid enemy tracking without disrupting battle. It marveled at Isaac's cunning, congratulating him for stealing the body of a child. Isaac, irritated, brushed off the remark and demanded it focus on locating threats. At once, the Observing One scanned a 100-meter radius. It reported 88 enemies, all demons, yet it assured Isaac none could touch him. Isaac was floored by the sheer number. He braced himself. If necessary, he would burn through every last ounce of mana he had hoarded over the years. This battle would decide everything. The enemy count was plummeting. First 51, then 31, then 13. Riley caught movement. He ordered a defensive formation. The number dwindled, 4 remained. One demon urged his ally to fight, their goal unchanged: kill the saint. The demon roared, "Glory to the Skeleton King." A lich turned against them, striking down another demon. The paladins gasped at the unexpected betrayal. The observing one gleefully reported, "Enemy forces have been eradicated." Isaac blinked. Wait, what? Who's killing them? Then, it detected something else. Then, out of the darkness, a voice thundered, "Who dares to touch my king?" The Shadow Lich had arrived. Isaac, stunned beyond words, struggled to grasp what had just transpired. A Shadow Lich emerged, addressing the infant Isaac as its king and master, its voice laced with reverence and fury. How could anyone dare imprison him within a child's frail body? The Lich's devotion was as twisted as it was absolute. It had been freed long ago, and for that, it had sworn eternal loyalty to Isaac. Unfortunately, eternal loyalty looked a lot like aggressive threats to the paladins, spewing threats in a language they could not understand. Confusion clouded their faces, but Isaac understood. The Lich recognized him as the Skeleton King. The observing one marveled at such unwavering loyalty. Riley immediately ordered his knights to ready themselves, but Isaac halted, warning of the Lich's unexpected arrival. His focus, however, remained on something far more pressing, his food, the concentrated mana source crucial to his survival. The paladin urged patience, promising swift resolution. The Lich reveled in the recognition from its master, while the paladin observed its sinister intent. The Lich took a step closer, its movements deliberate, its gaze locked onto Isaac. It delighted in having caught his attention. The Lich ignored them entirely. It basked in the joy of finally gaining Isaac's attention. Isaac, however, was busy panicking about his mana core. If he didn't break the barrier soon, things would spiral out of control. "Break it," he ordered. The Lich didn't hesitate. It shattered the barrier with terrifying ease. The paladins took a collective step back. Did it just? They recognized the technique. Totemization. Riley, wide-eyed, wondered aloud. Had Isaac just totemized a demon? The paladin holding Isaac confirmed his astonishment. They debated the nature of the phenomenon, convinced Isaac had used a holy art reserved for saints and cardinals. Isaac, however, denied it. It wasn't holiness, merely mana. Still, the resemblance to totemization was undeniable. For a child capable of such an advanced technique to lack any holy power was unusual. The paladin holding Isaac remarked that people often shone brightest when faced with peril. He noted how the demon had instinctively targeted Isaac, sensing him as the greatest threat. His certainty deepened. Isaac was the saint. Riley admitted that the demons had come for the boy. Whether or not he was truly the saint, Isaac was undeniably special. His mind drifted to another thought. Why was Isaac trapped in the body of a child? He began explaining the Skeleton King's curse upon the men of House Yeshua, but his words were cut short. The captain of the Blue stepped forward, declaring his commitment to protecting Isaac, the future of House Yeshua. The perspective shifted. Riley was deep in thought. Why had they feared the Skeleton King's curse when this child had the power to elevate Yeshua? The child could elevate Yeshua to new heights. Determined, he scooped Isaac into his arms, promising to teach him well, to raise him into a formidable paladin. But Isaac remained indifferent. His only goal was reclaiming his original body. Riley vowed to find a way to save Isaac, even if his fate was destined to be brief. He swore that Isaac's name would echo across the continent. Isaac stiffened at the mention of his short life. Riley, oblivious, pledged to teach Isaac how to curse the Skeleton King once they returned home. Isaac sighed, exasperated. They arrived at Yeshua Mansion, an extravagant, absurdly wealthy estate. Isaac's eyes widened in disbelief. Compared to his own castle and dwindling resources, this was overwhelming. He lamented how he had always been forced to be frugal to keep his people fed. The observing one agreed, pointing out that selling just a few of the statues here could easily fund 10 new castles. Riley led Isaac through the halls, proudly introducing the Yeshua Mansion, the birthplace of exorcism on the continent. He gestured toward the statues lining the corridors, each depicting warriors battling the Skeleton King. He told Isaac that one day, he too would become like them. Isaac was horrified. The mansion reeked of anti-Skeleton King propaganda, ingrained in the minds of children from birth. He decided, right then and there, that he would join the Holy Empire, make the Emperor his puppet, and rebrand everything as the Isaac Empire. The observing one mocked him for his pettiness. Ignoring the jab, Isaac ordered it to continue scouting. Observing one obediently resumed scanning. They admired the vast collection of mana cores displayed throughout the mansion. Isaac stared in shock. How many demons had been slain to amass such a horde? At last, they reached their destination. Riley instructed his attendants to prepare his room, intending for Isaac to stay with him, but he was met with resistance. Orders had come down. Isaac was to be taken to the annex. Riley bristled with anger. The fifth young master had decreed that Isaac was forbidden from entering the main building. Why should the boy be sent to the cursed wing, where people perished? He recognized the truth. This was nothing but petty family politics. Isaac, unbothered, dismissed the matter. Why stay in the annex when he could reside in the grand mansion? The observing one noted that the mana cores were concentrated in the annex. Riley refused to let his nephew be relegated to a ghost house. He ordered the guards to stand aside. He swore he would read Isaac bedtime stories, tales of saints battling the Skeleton King, and teach him exorcism spells designed to eradicate the foul creature. Isaac paled at the idea of being exorcised. A sudden interruption shattered the tense moment. The fifth son of House Yeshua, Joey, had arrived. His voice rang with authority. He had commanded that the child be sent to the annex. He leveled a sharp glare at Riley, demanding an explanation for his insubordination. Isaac took one look at him and muttered under his breath, "Thug." Joey commands Riley to put Isaac down and send him to the annex, as if it were some abyss of doom. Riley, stunned, challenges the order, questioning whether Joey is truly serious about banishing a direct descendant of House Yeshua. Isaac, unimpressed, silently concludes that this fool, Joey, simply doesn't want him in the house. Isaac demands to be released, insisting he'd rather go to the annex than endure a reading of the exorcism ritual of the Skeleton King. Joey ridicules the paladin for bringing in someone filthier than the Skeleton King himself, ranting about bloodlines. Isaac, bewildered, wonders if this cleric is merely a thug before deciding to ignore him entirely and head to the annex, intent on draining the mana core before anyone could bother him further. Riley, however, perceives a deeper scheme, an attempt to brand Isaac as cursed and strip him of his place in the succession race. The realization startles Isaac. He hadn't thought about that. Maybe House Yeshua was more valuable than he'd realized. If he truly wanted revenge against the gods, rising to saint and eventually pope was necessary. Riley, meanwhile, was getting accused of conspiring against him. Apparently, demon sightings had fueled the rumors of Isaac's alleged curse. A paladin defends Isaac, asserting that he exorcised the demons and wields the holy power of a saint. Joey scoffs, challenging them to have Isaac prove his worth if they truly believe in his divinity. Observing one casually suggests summoning a meteor, prompting an exasperated Isaac to shut the idea down. Unfazed, Joey presents a test. Isaac must revive the sacred symbol of the house, a divine tree that withered after being tainted by demonic essence. If Isaac is a genuine saint candidate, restoring it should be effortless. Riley balks at the absurdity of the request, while Isaac briefly ponders Melissa's children, the missing eldest and the second son. He's suddenly startled when observing one speaks, only to watch as it abruptly throws the observing one toward the lifeless tree. The act stuns everyone. Riley points out that fewer than 70 years have passed since the tree's demise, yet Joey expects a mere child to resurrect it. Except, the tree did revive, right before their eyes. It was like someone had slapped life back into its branches. What was once a husk of death now stands vibrant and flourishing. The paladin, astounded, attributes the miracle to Isaac. Joey remains unconvinced, arguing that even the head of the house has grieved over the tree's demise. Lacking definitive proof, he dismisses the celebration. The paladins, however, insist Isaac performed an exorcism and purification, though Joey rejects their claims. Isaac, through observing one, clarifies that he merely drained the demon's remnants from the tree's roots. He grimaces at having consumed the mana, while observing one demands he expel it immediately. A paladin inquires about the tree's revival, but Riley denies having done anything. The paladins, fully convinced of Isaac's divine power, rejoice, while Joey refuses to accept the idea. He accuses the paladin of scheming to push Isaac forward as the saint candidate, questioning the existence of another contender within the house. Joey erupts in fury. "You had the saint as help you, then you made it look like this child did it." Riley snaps back. "What nonsense are you spewing?" Isaac, inwardly, wonders if Melissa can confirm Joey's supposed connection to the saintess, noticing a lack of resemblance. The situation escalates when Joey offhandedly suggests selling Isaac to further their bloodline, only to be met with a furious punch from Riley. Isaac muses that brothers grow through conflict. He realizes he's gathered valuable intel and takes comfort in knowing the family isn't tightly bound, making his eventual takeover all the easier. His ultimate goal remains, to bring the house to ruin. Observing one questions the logic, pointing out that the house's destruction would impact Isaac as well. Isaac remains resolute. The scene shifts to a council meeting, centered on the birth of a new child. Hannah, the second wife of Yeshua and current acting head of the house, silences the room before addressing Riley. She demands an explanation. Why did Riley bring Isaac into the main family when the branch family had agreed to care for him? Isaac pieced it together. Hannah wanted him gone. He glanced toward Joey, who helpfully pointed out that the acting head of the house was still waiting for an answer. It is then revealed that Isaac's father has abandoned his position and disappeared. Hannah laments the increasing turbulence surrounding the saint candidates. Riley, visibly uneasy, admits his regret before revealing Isaac's miraculous revival of the divine tree. Joey scoffs, attributing it to mere coincidence. Perhaps long-awaited prayers had finally borne fruit. An elderly woman remarks that even the house's most learned scholars had failed to restore the tree, questioning how a mere child could succeed where they had not. Hannah agrees, citing a lack of verifiable evidence. Isaac, calmly assessing the skepticism, offers to provide proof, stunning the council members. Isaac casually channeled the tree's energy into a crystal, a tangible testament to his undeniable connection with the sacred power, watching their stunned expressions with thinly veiled amusement. Now this was more like it. The council members are stunned to discover that Isaac has eradicated the mana corrupting the divine tree. The notion that a mere newborn accomplished such a feat seems impossible, yet the undeniable truth lies before them: the mana was vanquished right in their presence. The exorcism art required to save the tree was no joke, yet here they were, questioning their life choices because an infant pulled it off like it was nap time. Joey remains doubtful, unable to accept that an infant could wield such extraordinary power. Riley, however, defends Isaac, asserting that he simply acted on instinct, channeling his abilities to purge the mana. He underscores the remarkable nature of the event. Isaac succeeded in mere moments, where House Yeshua had struggled and failed for 70 years. The math wasn't mathing for Joey, though. He thought the whole thing was so ridiculous that the house would become a laughingstock. Then, to top it off, he made a bold accusation. What if Isaac wasn't even a real Yeshua? What if he was the child of some random beggar? Riley counters, boldly predicting that Isaac will grow to become the saint and possibly even the future pope. Isaac, meanwhile, was just sitting there, silently nodding along. Riley then makes an audacious proclamation: Isaac will one day slay the Skeleton King. The declaration sparks outrage, with Hannah accusing Riley of signing his own death sentence. She suggests putting Isaac's abilities to the test. And what better way to do that than to grab something from the legendary treasury of holy artifacts? The scene transitions to the dark forest, northwest of the Holy Empire of Hela, where a man battles demons, dismissing the task as a meaningless chore. A knight approaches Eli Yeshua, the head of House Yeshua. Eli inquires about the situation, and the knight explains that Hannah, the acting head, has requested permission to enter the treasury of holy artifacts. Stressing that the request does not concern the Holy See, he reveals that Eli's grandson, Isaac, has revived the divine tree, prompting Hannah to seek verification of his status as the saint. Eli questions the possibility of a saint emerging from his house, refusing entry to anyone aside from the saintess candidate. He warns the paladin against needless infighting. A woman then speaks in favor of allowing the test, revealing herself as Melissa Yeshua, the matriarch of House Yeshua and a former saintess. She acknowledges Isaac's potential and suggests evaluating all saint candidates within the treasury. Though she concedes that a child from another house may claim the most powerful artifact, she longs for such an outcome. Even the greatest saintess in history failed to secure the artifact for themselves, and Melissa believes it could be crucial in locating and destroying the Skeleton King. If someone managed to bring it out, though, she was ready to shower them with prizes, stuff so valuable, even the Pope would get jealous. Alongside the saint's heirloom and secret techniques, she vows to relinquish all to the child who prevails. The treasury of holy artifacts is a sacred vault, holding invaluable relics and ancient techniques for millennia. Traditionally overseen by the saintess, it has long been regarded as the rightful domain of House Yeshua. Only children under 10 may enter, and it once served as the site of the first birthday ritual for saintess candidates. Their potential was foretold by the artifact they retrieved from within. However, the treasury is perilous. Even saintess candidates often perished within its depths. After countless deaths and losses, the treasury was eventually sealed. The observing one conveys its intrigue, and Isaac shares in its excitement, eager to uncover the Skeleton King's remains within the treasury. A paladin notices Isaac's enthusiasm and informs him that the matriarch has granted entry to all saint candidates. He reveals that the heirs of all 5 great houses will be present, including that of the corrupt pope. Isaac sees this as a golden opportunity to reclaim his body without drawing too much attention, as the observers will be focused on multiple candidates. Riley warned Isaac about the dangers. The treasury had captured demons guarding it, leftovers from the war. Isaac dismissed the warning entirely, reasoning that any demons held captive must be weak. He declares that even rank 8 demons would pose little challenge. Their shock is palpable when they discover that a rank 8 demon and a rank 9 dragon reside within. Isaac and the observing one are alarmed. Why would a dragon be stationed at a site meant for a newborn's first ritual? The observing one reminds Isaac that his knowledge of dragons should aid him, yet Isaac is overwhelmed with dread. He had been scamming dragons for years. If the treasury was filled with them, odds were good that they were the exact dragons he had tricked. Probably 70 of them. The observing one pieces it together. These are dragons Isaac had swindled in the past. Isaac realized there was only one way out of this mess. He would sneak into the annex and steal all of House Yeshua's war spoils. If he wanted to survive the rank 8 demons and the angry rank 9 dragon, he needed mana cores. Lots of them. All of them. He was going full heist mode. The scene unfolds within the grand, opulent annex of House Yeshua, where Isaac sits on the floor, engrossed in Book of Holy Arts, 10 Ways to Take Apart the Skeleton King. The observing one leans over, concern painted on his face, remarking that Isaac looks on the verge of being exorcised. Isaac laments his struggle, convinced that mastering holy power first will allow him to wield holy arts with ease. The observing one cheekily suggests using mind control to force a lesson out of them, but Isaac quickly dismisses anything that might get him labeled as a demon or destroy the Yeshua family's reputation. Theory alone is proving to be painfully ineffective, and frustration mounts. Riley enters to fetch Isaac, commenting on his exhausted state. Isaac grumbles about needing more sleep at his age, while a nearby paladin picks up his book. Without hesitation, Riley applies a recovery holy art on Isaac, much to his delight. Feeling energized, Isaac eagerly asks Riley to demonstrate some attack arts next, only to be interrupted by the observing one, who reminds him that they need to head to the other building. Feigning sleep, Isaac fools the adults, who marvel at how quickly he drifts off. As they depart, the observing one remarks on Isaac's exceptional family, while Isaac mourns the loss of his totem. Riley advises the paladin to store the artifact somewhere secure, acknowledging that it's Isaac's first creation. Frustrated, Isaac complains about the hassle of reviving it. But Riley is more concerned with finding the perfect place to display it. Determined to extract its mana core dry, Isaac prepares to leave the annex with the observing one, who warns him they won't reach their destination until the next day if he insists on crawling. Isaac devises a plan, instructing the observing one to open the door, only to find that Uncle Riley has sealed it with a holy art. Frustrated, Isaac considers breaking through, but the observing one warns that such a move would be mistaken for an attack, causing immediate chaos. Isaac hesitates to use magic, unwilling to lose control, and struggles to find a way out. Before Isaac can settle on an escape strategy, the door unexpectedly opens. Standing there is Shuri, the son of Joey and a saint candidate of the Yeshua family. At 15 years old, Shuri is both shocked and horrified to see that his supposed rival is a baby who can't even walk. The observing one, equally surprised, notes that Isaac looks injured. Shuri, fueled by arrogance, refuses to believe that Isaac could have possibly created a totem, something even he himself has failed to accomplish. To assert dominance, he presents a glowing artifact and proclaims himself the future saint. Without warning, he launches a holy mana attack at Isaac, but Isaac effortlessly deflects it, shocking Shuri. In retaliation, Isaac playfully smacks Shuri with a toy, provoking outrage. Shuri accuses him of channeling holy power for aggression, but Isaac counters swiftly, knocking him to the ground. The observing one praises Isaac's precision, and Isaac promptly commands Shuri to become his steed. Still determined to prove his superiority, Shuri prepares a rank 3 holy defense art, boasting that he alone can use it at his age. He follows up with Holy Light, a rank 3 holy attack, but Isaac absorbs it effortlessly, sarcastically thanking Shuri for the meal. Shuri stares in disbelief at Isaac's formidable holy defense. Isaac explains that he absorbed the attack purely because Riley never bothered to teach him how to wield it. Another strike lands on Shuri, prompting the observing one to question whether it's truly acceptable to harm a direct family member. Isaac brushes off the concern, arguing that none of the attacks actually hit him anyway. He advises Shuri to quit startling him if he can't land a proper hit. Determined to prove himself, Shuri refuses to back down, convinced that Isaac cannot best a saint candidate in holy arts. However, his resolve crumbles when the Shadow Lich intervenes, demanding an explanation for Shuri's reckless actions. Shuri shrinks under its gaze, trembling, and in an instant, all of his arrogance evaporates. Meanwhile, Isaac, thoroughly amused by the entire ordeal, decides he's wasted enough time. He turns to Shuri, fully expecting him to serve as his personal transportation. After all, it's only fair. Shuri, a determined young boy, boldly proclaims himself destined for a saint, convinced that destiny had grand plans for him, dreaming of escaping his household curse to one day become the Pope. However, his ambitions quickly take a back seat as he finds himself unwillingly carrying a tyrant baby Isaac, a baby with more authority than any infant should have. Isaac's commands are non-negotiable, and Shuri, with no way out, trudges forward with Isaac on his back. His misery deepened when he caught sight of the Shadow Lich lingering ominously in the distance. Its form swayed unnaturally, its gaze piercing, its presence screaming of imminent doom. Survival remains his priority, and he silently wishes for someone to intervene. Their journey takes them to the garden annex, where Isaac directs Shuri left, then further left, leaving him confused as to their destination at such a late hour. Soon, he realizes their arrival at the Yeshua Mansion's infamous second annex, the haunted house. Dread washes over him. Entry into this forbidden place has been strictly prohibited due to the countless deaths that have occurred within its walls. Entry is forbidden, yet here they are, practically knocking on the door. Isaac and Oculus exchange cheeky smiles, always eager to stir trouble. Oculus, keenly observant, notes an overwhelming presence of mana, an immense force that would typically require decades of rigorous training to accumulate. Isaac's eyes gleam with excitement at the possibility of harnessing such power. Eager to press forward, Isaac moves toward the entrance, Shuri, recalling the adult's dire warnings, protests, but his objections are ignored. The Shadow Lich taunts him, urging him onward. Reluctantly, he walks with Isaac, expecting something grand, something mystifying, but instead, the place was a complete wreck. Oculus informs him that the entire building is sealed with magical barriers, its doors barricaded by powerful barriers. Shuri hesitates, suggesting they turn back since everything is locked, but Isaac swiftly yanks his hair in response, forcing compliance. Shuri winces in pain, demanding he be released. Isaac examines the portraits of the past patriarch heads, leading Shuri to suspect his true ambition to claim the patriarch's position for himself. Defiantly, Shuri declares that he will take that title instead. Without hesitation, Isaac shatters the ancestral portraits, sending Shuri into a panic. Shuri watches in horror as Isaac shatters them, one by one. He angrily berates Isaac for desecrating their ancestors' images, while Isaac merely questions why the barrier spell was tied to the paintings in the first place. The portraits were the key, and now, the door stands unguarded. Oculus confirms the spell has been broken, and Isaac celebrates his success. Isaac wasted no time, leaping off Shuri's back and landing in a perfect roll toward a mysterious door. Shuri, dazed, called after him, demanding to know where he was going after wreaking havoc on the portraits. As he opens it, a glimmering collection of mana cores is revealed, leaving him in awe. Dismissing Shuri's irritation, he arrogantly claims that someone as young as him wouldn't understand. Unease grips Shuri as Isaac seals the door behind him, effectively locking him out. Isaac eagerly scans the room and, upon discovering what he's been searching for, triumphantly declares it a jackpot. He quickly settles down and begins extracting the mana cores. Meanwhile, Shuri pounds on the door in frustration, demanding he leave and threatening to report him to the elders. Suddenly, elders, paladins, and Riley arrive, demanding an explanation for Shuri's presence in the annex. What madness had possessed him to enter a forbidden place? Shuri, relieved, attempts to explain that Isaac is to blame, but an elderly woman cuts him off. She reprimands him, pointing out that entry had been explicitly forbidden and accusing him of endangering Isaac. Multiple witnesses had seen him carrying Isaac on his back, and traces of holy attack arts had been detected. She demands to know if Shuri is responsible for the disturbances. Shuri scrambles to defend himself. He hurriedly argues that everything transpiring as Isaac is a true menace. He admits to carrying him and using some holy attack arts, but that didn't mean he was responsible for the utter chaos unfolding around them. Riley, looking deeply disappointed, tells Shuri that he has gone too far and should never have tormented Isaac in this way. He demands to know where Isaac is locked. Shuri insists Isaac locked himself inside, but when they hear banging from within, their concern grows. Riley pushes open the creaking door, revealing Isaac, tears streaming down his tiny face. Relief washes over the elders. They glance at Isaac, who appears terrified, yet the room itself remains seemingly untouched. Riley cradles the teary-eyed Isaac, reassuring him that he's safe, while admonishing Shuri, telling him he should be ashamed. Shuri, desperate, tearfully, insists that's not the truth. He tried to explain, but no one was listening. Then, in an unsettling turn, Isaac looks up at Shuri, flashing a sinister grin. He thanks him for a delightful meal, sending a chill down Shuri's spine. Isaac reveals that he has absorbed an astronomical amount of mana, far more than anticipated. In mere moments, he has gained the power that would have required 100 years of training to acquire. The overwhelming energy coursing through Isaac signals the completion of his grand scheme. With a malicious laugh, he prepares to put his newfound strength into action. Meanwhile, Riley, utterly oblivious, continued comforting Isaac, completely misunderstanding the situation, believing Isaac to be genuinely frightened. Sunlight cascades over the grand, opulent mansion, illuminating its lavish halls. Within, Isaac sits cross-legged on the floor, deeply engrossed in a massive book, while Oculus hovers nearby in silent observation. Riley enters as he introduces Ashley, a devoted paladin of Yeshua, who has been assigned to care for Isaac. Without hesitation, Ashley kneels before him, pledging her unwavering loyalty until her final breath. Isaac, still reeling from recent events, can't shake the feeling that unseen eyes are watching him, perhaps due to the incident at the annex. He shifts his gaze to Ashley and dismisses her brusquely, calling her duh, and making it clear that he has no need for her assistance. His abrupt rejection leaves Ashley flustered and Riley quietly concerned. They had misread Isaac's intentions. Instead of retreating, Ashley seeks approval from Riley. Her face goes red, perhaps from embarrassment, perhaps from an inexplicable desire to pinch his cheeks. Isaac watches the strange exchange and wonders how so many unhinged people ended up in one family. Riley, his voice warm, offers Isaac a gift from his uncle, a ring. Oculus scoffs, questioning if Riley had salvaged it from a trash heap. With biting sarcasm, he speculates that Yeshua's fortunes must be dwindling if this was considered a suitable offering for Isaac. Yet Ashley's reaction is starkly different. Her eyes widen in shock as she immediately recognizes the artifact. It is the Saintess treasure. Riley explains that the council had entrusted him with the ring, intending it for Isaac. Studying the relic, Isaac realizes its significance. It is the very ring the Saintess wielded against him, an elder ring imbued with a fragment of divine power. Currently, Isaac can tap into it only once or twice before exhausting its energy, but that isn't a problem. A sly smile crosses his lips. He has a solution for that, and it's going to be fun. Beyond the mansion's walls, Joey lurks in the shadows, radiating fury, his face contorted with barely contained rage. His expression to his nephew Isaac confirms his suspicions. The ring is authentic. The sight of Isaac unsettles him. The notion that he could one day destroy him gnaws at his mind. Joey forces his face into an unsettling smile and steps forward with all the warmth of a snake in a sweater vest. He approaches Isaac with exaggerated fondness, asking if he's adjusted to the house. Isaac meets Joey's gaze with cold disdain, his disgust unmistakable. Oculus muses that perhaps Joey has finally succumbed to madness. As Isaac simmers with quiet rage, he can't shake the feeling that things are taking a dangerous turn. Then, Joey delivers his revelation. He had sabotaged the treasury's blessing device, ensuring that Isaac could never receive its power. By doing so, he had forced the elders' hand, leaving them no choice but to grant Isaac the Saintess treasure instead. An elderly woman solemnly explains that Isaac isn't able to receive a blessing like others. To keep things fair, he needs the ring. Joey, still nursing resentment from their previous confrontation, demands the ring for Shuri. However, she swiftly reminds him that he has already received a blessing from the Holy See and warns him not to succumb to greed. Frustrated, Joey begrudgingly admits his intent. He was going to pretend to donate the ring to the Holy See, only to swipe it for himself later. Joey accuses Riley of taking the ring without understanding its true worth. Then, in an impressive display of arrogance, Joey dismisses the Saintess's ring as worthless junk. If Riley was going to give Isaac a gift, it should be something better, not this useless trinket. Riley defends the ring's worth. It belonged to the Saintess after all. But Joey persists, asserting that Isaac is his beloved nephew and should receive something he can actually use. He suggests a different ring from the treasury, one blessed countless times by the Holy See, claiming that it would serve Isaac far better. Even Riley, he adds smugly, would struggle to obtain such an artifact. Isaac, keenly aware of Joey's manipulations, chooses to play along. As Joey urges him to hand over the old tarnished ring, Isaac abruptly slaps him, snatching the ring away. He sneers, stating that the item reeks of the Pope's corruption, before hurling it aside and ordering Joey to disappear. Joey lets out a strangled scream, eyes wild with disbelief. He commands the knights to recover the ring, scrambling to find it himself, his movements growing more frantic. How dare Isaac throw it away like garbage? This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Riley steps forward, questioning Isaac's actions, pointing out that the ring Joey had offered was far more valuable than the one he himself had given. And yet, Isaac had made his choice. With a triumphant glint in his eyes, Isaac presents Riley's ring, the one he had chosen without hesitation. With an affectionate grin, Riley calls Isaac his precious nephew, swearing to only give him the finest things. As Ashley and Riley rejoice, a sense of warmth and victory fills the air. Joey and his knights frantically search the depths of the lake, their frustration growing as they complain that the waters are far too deep. But Joey refuses to concede, demanding they find the ring at all costs, as if their very lives depend on it. Unbeknownst to them, Isaac quietly casts a spell, making the ring impossibly heavy. The knights can dive all they want, but the ring is now lodged in the depths like an immovable boulder. No one is retrieving it, ever. Oculus chuckles, impressed by Isaac's unwavering refusal to touch something so tainted. Amused, Isaac suggests that Oculus retrieve the ring under the cover of night, catching the entity off guard. The ring, after all, will be worth a fortune, and Isaac has every intention of selling it. Meanwhile, Joey, consumed by rage, collapses onto the ground, screaming in frustration over the lost relic. He slams his fist against the table, his fury spilling over as he yells about the ring's immense value, convinced that Isaac has no idea how much it truly costs. Moments later, Joey takes a deep breath, forcing himself to regain composure. He rationalizes that it doesn't matter. Isaac wouldn't be able to use the Elder Ring properly anyway. With a smug expression, he declares that activating the ring requires absorbing the holy power of 20 people. and, by his estimation, there will barely be half that number attending Isaac's first birthday. He smirks, convinced that Isaac will never unlock its true potential. The following day, the mansion becomes a spectacle as crowds flood its grand halls. Ashley stands in awe. 148 saint candidates have arrived, accompanied by thousands of servants and aristocrats. Among them are representatives from the ducal houses, dozens of marquis families, and, astonishingly, even the emperor himself is here. Other countries have also sent their saint candidates. Isaac and Oculus observe the scene with amused skepticism, joking that the gods must have grown lazy, scattering saints everywhere as if by chance. Tossing saints around like confetti at a festival, hardly keeping track. Meanwhile, Riley watches the overwhelming turnout with suspicion, unable to shake the feeling that this might be a trap. His thoughts are interrupted by the sudden arrival of Simon, his trusted friend, and the leader of one of the Empire's top 3 merchant guilds. Riley is taken aback. "You're here too?" he questions. Simon grins, explaining that the Empire is abuzz with excitement. Word had spread that even the supposed weak men of Yeshua would be in attendance, reassuring everyone that this gathering couldn't possibly be a trap. He adds with a knowing smirk that Yeshua's matriarch has offered up a prize so irresistible that even the Pope's house couldn't turn away. Isaac narrows his eyes, intrigued. A prize? What could be worth such a spectacle? Riley stiffens in surprise, the mention of the Pope's house catching him off guard. Simon, however, waves it off, unconcerned. He scoffs, stating that the royals would never step foot in Yeshua. They openly regard everyone outside House Barrett as mere commoners and loathe the thought of mingling with them. Lowering his voice, Riley cautions Simon, reminding him that Yeshua is hosting the gathering and that it is not the Pope's family's place to interfere. He advises discretion, warning that their words should be measured. Then, with a smirk, he suggests they provide something more impressive than the arrogant papal elites. A smooth, chilling voice suddenly cuts through the conversation. "There's nothing more dangerous than a vulgar friend." The words send a shiver down Simon's spine. Cardinal Ray Barrett steps forward, his presence commanding. Ray's gaze settles on Riley, brimming with mockery. Ray was hoping to catch a glimpse of this so-called saint candidate from Yeshua. Yet, curiously enough, the boy is nowhere to be found. This is the perfect opportunity, Ray claims. With a prayer thinly veiled as mockery, he hopes that Yeshua's saint candidate will rise to the occasion and bring honor to the house he represents. Riley's mind races. Have they unknowingly walked into the Holy See's carefully laid trap? He takes note of the staggering surge in saint candidates. Just a week ago, the number of saint candidates skyrocketed from 25 to 148 in mere days. A coincidence? Not likely. The realization dawns on him. The Holy See must have turned a blind eye to the countless unqualified applicants, allowing nearly anyone with even the slightest claim to join the ranks. After all, every family is desperate for their child to be recognized as a saint candidate. If those children are ushered into the treasury, the weakest among them will be swiftly eliminated, and amidst that chaos, the Holy See could enact whatever nefarious plan it has concealed. A chill runs down Riley's spine as the pieces fall into place. Isaac might be in danger. He gasps, his expression tense, but when he glances at Isaac, his urgency meets an entirely different sight. Isaac, oblivious to the growing crisis, picks his nose absent-mindedly, a bewildered expression on his face, as if the world around him has suddenly become incomprehensible. The emblem of Yeshua stands boldly, a striking display of a star and crossed swords. A historical text condemns the boys of the Yeshua bloodline, labeling them as useless despite their striking appearance and the prestige of their family name. They are viewed as worthless, yet paradoxically, they are irresistible prey, coveted by those seeking to claim the unparalleled Yeshua lineage and those eager to curry favor with the papal house, which harbors a deep-seated enmity for the house of the saints. A Yeshua child is the ultimate prize. Countless hands reach for the light, eager to seize it. Cloaked in shadows, a figure murmurs a chilling suggestion, to toy with the boy, to render him powerless without taking his life. The plan? Spike his drink with a concoction so potent, it would make even the divine regret their choices. Holy poison, a name designed more for branding than actual efficacy, was supposed to render him a pitiful laughingstock, proof that no Yeshua boy could ever hope to rise above their infamous reputation, proving to all that a Yeshua child can never ascend to sainthood. Unfortunately, Isaac was either immune or oblivious. The world watches as Isaac lifts the tainted cup to his lips. He drinks, unknowing, remarking on its pleasant taste. He drinks again. A hush falls over the other children. Fear grips them as they count. How many times has Isaac drank from the poisoned water? Isaac demands more, asserting that the poison in the drink is too weak to harm him. His unsettling behavior drives the other children to tears, their fear spreading like wildfire. Some plead to go home, while others whisper that Isaac is terrifying. Meanwhile, the conspirators begin to doubt themselves. Did they mix up the bottles? The drink was only supposed to give Isaac diarrhea, not provoke this bizarre defiance. Uncertain, they decide to press on and let events unfold. Shuri watches in growing confusion, unable to comprehend Isaac's reckless drinking. Embarrassment grips him. How could a candidate for saint fail to recognize tainted water? Furious, he steps forward, grabs a bottle, and commands Isaac to stop. His voice is sharp as he questions whether Isaac is possessed. Then, in a last effort to intervene, Shuri offers him a different bottle, assuring him it contains no poison. But Isaac doesn't waver. With cold precision, he hurls the untainted bottle at Shuri's face. He doesn't want clean water. He demands the one that is poisoned. Isaac sprawls on the floor, clutching at the pants of another saint, attempting to get a poisoned drink. The saint declares that his beverage is a holy poison. Isaac freezes for a moment, then his eyes light up with excitement. A girl rushes forward, desperate to stop him. She warns that drinking it could kill him, but Isaac remains unfazed. He demands the holy poison, his obsession unwavering. In a sudden burst, he lunges for the bottles, determined to take them for himself. The children murmur among themselves, their voices tinged with awe and speculation. Was this a miracle? His immunity to poison was unnatural. Some speculated that if one trained their holy powers enough, they could develop a natural ability to filter out toxins. Maybe Isaac had reached that level. Or maybe he was just utterly insane. One child nervously suggested that Isaac wasn't drinking poison for fun, perhaps he was testing it, making sure it wasn't dangerous for others. Shuri stands amid the chaos, his thoughts muddled, his understanding slipping. He watches the swirling conversation unfold and can only wonder, what in the world are they talking about? Suddenly, another child appears and asks whether Isaac is sacrificing himself. Shuri is stunned to see Kian here, Kian Barrett, the direct grandson of the Papal House. His presence shocks the others, as none of them expected the Papal House to participate. Confusion spreads as they question why someone of his lineage would be in the saint's treasury. As the realization dawns that Kian is the likely victor, it is revealed that he has already been chosen internally to become the saint. It is noted that every pope throughout history has had dirty brown hair, leading them to wonder whether the Barrett family could produce a pure hair color like Kian's. However, the fact that the Papal House is present in the saint's treasury is not surprising. After all, as the head of all clergymen, the Pope holds dominion over the treasury. That is precisely why Kian is here. Kian moves like a ruler surveying his kingdom. He boldly declares that he has come to claim what rightfully belongs to him, as if this were a family heirloom passed down through generations. Isaac, observing Kian's immense presence, remarks on his monstrous nature. He notes that even by holy power alone, Kian has already surpassed bishops, and muses that this is why Kian holds the title of saint candidate. Meanwhile, the others are chastised for attempting to discredit the host, their actions deemed substandard. He questions their motives. What could they possibly gain from tormenting a young child like him? As Kian approaches Isaac, he scoffs at the idea that a mere child could control his poison immunity. He speculates that the power of the saints must be protecting Isaac, shielding him with divine protection. Isaac, unimpressed, muses that foolishness must run in Kian's family. Kian proceeds to heal Isaac, who simply stares at him, leaving everyone astonished. They begin to wonder, could Kian already have the ability to cure poison? They also take note of the sheer magnitude of his holy power, estimating it to be at least rank 5. If Kian wanted to turn heads, it's working. Isaac quickly realizes Kian's true intention. He wants to use him as a display of strength. It's a clever strategy, but Isaac suddenly retaliates, striking Kian and causing his holy power to vanish. The abrupt disruption leaves Kian stunned. He struggles to comprehend what just happened, the undeniable truth settling in. Isaac is stronger than him. Unwilling to accept it, Kian angrily hurls an insult, calling Isaac a Yeshua trash. Isaac, unfazed, mocks Kian in return. Isaac attempts to strike Kian with a bottle, only for Shuri to intervene, firmly warning him against it. The others watch in amazement. Shuri, stepping in to protect Isaac, is a surprise. Some whisper, why did Isaac attack Kian, who was literally curing him? Does he really think he can take on the Papal House? Others wonder if Shuri actually has what it takes to keep Isaac safe. Shuri, meanwhile, knows one thing for sure. If he hadn't stepped in, somebody would have been leaving with a bottle-shaped dent in their skull. Kian waves off the whole situation with an exaggerated air of generosity, claiming it's all fine. Isaac is just a baby, probably startled. He turns to leave, taunting the Yeshua children to gather whatever pathetic little trinkets they can in a desperate attempt to salvage their family's dignity. His mockery lingers in the air as he walks away. Shuri lifts Isaac into his arms, but Isaac's face is an angry storm cloud. If looks could set things on fire, Kian would be a pile of ashes. Before departing, Kian declares that the greatest treasure within the treasury belongs to him alone. He sneers, adding that Yeshua will never lay a finger on the body of the Skeleton King. Shuri's irritation is clear, but Isaac is absolutely livid. His anger ignites as he demands to know what Kian meant. What did he say about the Skeleton King's body? His fury mounts, and he shakes Shuri, demanding an answer. Shuri sighs, and explains that the matriarch decreed whoever brings back the Skeleton King's body will be granted a special technique. Isaac freezes. Melissa's name was mentioned. His imagination does its worst. He sees it, clear as day. The Skeleton King's remains, neatly tied up with a bright red ribbon, paraded around as some ridiculous prize. His mind reels at the sheer madness of it all. What kind of twisted game is she playing with his body? Isaac sits among the gathered children in the treasury, bottles scattered around him on the floor. His gaze hardens as he reminisces, determination flickering in his eyes. A flashback reveals his past life as the Skeleton King, centuries spent refining mana within his ancient skeletal form. He scoffs at the thought. Reaching rank 10 would be effortless if only he could reclaim his former body. The problem, however, was the horde of eager children surrounding him, all aiming for the same prize. He surveyed them like a predator scanning its prey, narrowing his eyes menacingly. The children shivered under his gaze, fear flickering in their eyes. He made up his mind. If anyone got in his way, he would take them down without a second thought. Ken, the unfortunate adult in charge, stepped forward to address the group, his voice firm as he announces their imminent departure and urges them to listen carefully. The treasury was a sacred place, once home to the previous saintess during her training. This should have been inspiring, but to Isaac, it was the start of an agonizingly long monologue. Isaac barely stifles a sigh. A history lesson? Just great. This will take forever. Deciding he had suffered enough, Isaac started sneaking away, crawling across the floor, his movements quiet but deliberate. His movements did not go unnoticed. Shuri catches sight of him and narrows his eyes. "Where do you think you're going?" he demands. Before an answer can come, an explosion erupts, shattering the moment. Their shock deepens when they see Isaac, moving in a blur, faster than they thought possible. Chaos unfolds as he weaves through the wreckage, a sly grin on his lips. Every step carries a calculated precision, the mark of a holy art newly mastered, sending him whizzing through the treasury, causing a ruckus that would definitely earn him a lecture later. If anyone could catch him first. Ken frantically calls out to Isaac, urging him to stop. The treasury is off limits, and traps are set to spring at every turn. His warnings grow more desperate, repeated again and again, but Isaac presses forward. The other children, gripped by fear, scramble to escape. Meanwhile, in the grand ballroom of the Yeshua mansion, Riley and Ashley exchange worried glances, hoping Isaac is safe. Suddenly, a man speaks up. They have a direct link to the treasury through a magical communication device. The person using it relays live updates, watching through his summon, which trails the child in third place. He announces that the first chamber's door has been opened and the candidates are making their way inside. Riley reacts with shock. It's happening so soon. The reports continue. Amon is in third place, a revelation that fills his father with excitement. Then, Shuri claims second, prompting Joey to beam with pride over his son's performance. Finally, the announcer pauses. Something unexpected. He stammers, confused. First place is Isaac. Riley and Ashley are stunned as the scene unfolds. Isaac, against all odds, moving swiftly through the treasury, leaving everyone in disbelief. The parents of the other candidates clutch their pearls. Somewhere in the treasury, Isaac probably had no idea he was causing this much of a scene. Ken, gasping like a fish out of water, flailed his arms in warning. Going any further would only make things worse. Ken desperately calls out to Isaac, warning him that pressing forward will only trigger more traps. His warnings become more frantic, but before he can say more, a sudden jolt of electricity courses through him. He's caught. Shuri watches, his face filled with worry. The other kids erupted into chaos, running in random directions, yelling for their moms, bumping into walls, stepping on each other's toes, and generally making things worse. Shuri, shaken, yells at Isaac, demanding to know why he insists on pushing deeper, why he's making an already grueling trial even worse by setting off anti-intruder traps. His frustration is unmistakable. Isaac reaches the gate to the second chamber, but instead of taking the expected route, he veers into a side path, activating a fresh wave of traps. Shuri, wide-eyed and frantic, flailed as if sheer panic could stop him from making things worse, warning Isaac that he's gone the wrong way. Then, Oculus speaks up, offering unexpected praise. Thanks to the mana cores Isaac absorbed in the annex, his rank has increased. Energized, Isaac urges Oculus to work even harder. Oculus lets out a frustrated curse, but Isaac remains focused. He gives a command. Oculus must grab Shuri. Without hesitation, Oculus takes off, soaring toward him. A child gasps in surprise. He hadn't expected the trials to be this difficult. Another child nods knowingly, remarking that this is why the saintesses are so powerful. One points out that the floating Shuri hails from the Yeshua, and the others react in shock, assuming his house must have secretly taught him how to fly. Unfair. But Shuri himself knows the truth. He's not flying by choice. Panicked, he demands to be let down. Meanwhile, Oculus informs Isaac that it has secured his informant, Shuri. Shuri wastes no time in warning Isaac. Making it through the first chamber's trial of selection was only the beginning. From the second chamber onward, a single misstep could mean death. The trials were designed to teach Saintuses how to conquer fear and make the right decisions, but Isaac grows impatient. His magic lashes out, electrocuting Shuri. He just wants a straight answer about the second chamber, not endless chatter. Gritting his teeth, Shuri gives one crucial piece of advice: never attack the enemies in the second chamber, no matter what. He repeats himself, trying to hammer the point home. Isaac scowls. What kind of nonsense is this? Why shouldn't we fight? But Shuri insists, this is the only way to pass. The enemies will vanish after 3 minutes. He demands confirmation. Does Isaac understand? Because if not, they'll both be doomed. Isaac sighs, beginning to grasp the lesson. It's a test of patience. Shuri warns him again. Many have died here. But Isaac merely smirks, dragging himself forward. 3 minutes? Sounds easy. A piece of cake. He resolves to wait, holding back from attacking. They step into the chamber of tranquility. A voice greets them, welcoming them to the chamber, where peace and patience are their only guides. The key to survival is to remain unshaken. To let tranquility lead them toward the light. Their patience will carry them forward. A group of children steps into the chamber, their movements cautious, their breaths shallow. One child, uneasy about lagging behind, voices his concern, but Kian dismisses the worry with calm assurance. There's no need for them to face the danger head-on. Instead, he suggests positioning the expendable shield at the front, reminding the child that a formidable rank 8 demon guards the entrance to the next chamber. He is convinced that those who rushed ahead have already been halted at the gateway. As he gestures toward a glowing light, he declares that the trial has begun. The gate creaks open, and he repeats his warning: they must not falter. Again, he urges them, steadiness is key. Fanes, radiant and smiling like a deity auditioning for a toothpaste commercial, exudes confidence. His voice carries a promise and a warning. Patience will lead them to the light. Without it, they will perish, straight into doom. Suddenly, Isaac strikes Fanes with an insta-kill attack, catching Shuri completely off guard. The fact that Isaac waited 3 minutes means nothing to Shuri. His frustration boils over, and he shouts at Isaac. Isaac, equally fired up, demands to know how he was supposed to hold back when they were forced to stare at the divine entity's offensively bad face. Oculus, unfazed, dryly notes that Isaac lasted 3 seconds longer than anticipated. The gatekeeper wastes no time declaring their utter failure. Patience, the one thing they lacked, was now the ticket to their doom. Divine punishment awaits. The sound of a massive golem stomping forward shakes the ground, rattling their nerves. Its roar is the kind that sends grown warriors straight into therapy. Shuri, drenched in sweat, officially enters panic mode. This is it. Game over. They're toast. Isaac, unflinching, summons a crimson surge of magical energy, channeling his mana to strike the golem. He unleashes his full power. Shuri watches in awe and bewilderment as the attack lands, pure devastation. The golem, now with a gaping hole at its core, crumbles before them. Isaac stands there, eyes fierce, still radiating fury. Shuri, still trying to piece together what just happened, squints at him, thoughts racing. What just happened? What is the deal with Isaac? What is the true extent of Isaac's power? The golem crumbles into a sad pile of rubble, leaving Isaac glaring at the mess. But his anger turns to shock when he realizes the creature was rank 8. Could this be some kind of joke? He soon uncovers the truth. The golem was crafted by one of his own subordinates, a member of the 14 elite demons, the most formidable among those he trained during his time as the Skeleton King. As if that wasn't bad enough, the golem's existence wasn't just some accident. This creation stems from innate magic, unique to that demon. Now, Isaac wrestles with a troubling question. Was the golem acting under House Yeshua's orders, or was its presence somehow tied to his own body being there? Determined to get answers, he makes a sudden move. He whirls around, ready to chase down the answers. Shuri, noticing his abrupt shift, demands to know where he's going. Out of nowhere, a boy among the group of children begins mocking the Yeshua boys, Isaac and Shuri, for being too helpful. This boy is Nigel Sephet, the third son of the ducal house Sephet of the Red Faith. As Isaac and Shuri notice him, Nigel smugly thanks them for defeating the golem gatekeeper but demands they step aside so he can enter the second chamber first. The other children murmur about the hardship they endured because of Isaac. Shuri, taken aback. Others accuse them of intending to enter first and rigging the area with traps. Nigel, smug beyond reason, leaned into his mockery, ridiculing House Yeshua for its supposed cowardice and tossing in an accusation for good measure. Maybe Shuri was secretly working with Isaac. Shuri adamantly denies any alliance with Isaac, but Nigel isn't convinced. They all saw Isaac effortlessly avoiding the traps. Then, Nigel's eyes catch an artifact, and a realization dawns upon him. It must be connected to Isaac's ring. His companion eagerly suggests that with the ring, excited whispers spread through the group. If they had the ring, they could bypass every single trap ahead. In Shuri's mind, the conclusion was clear. It wasn't about the ring. These fools were missing the point entirely. Isaac sits with an eerie calm, completely unfazed by the tension in the air. Shuri watches him, bewildered by his composure. How could anyone remain so still, so confident, when others were scheming to take something from him? Isaac never lets anyone steal from him without a fight, but here he is, doing nothing, just watching. There was no fear, no urgency, just quiet amusement. Nigel, however, has no patience for Isaac's demeanor. He declares that they no longer need Yeshua and orders them to stay out of the way. Without hesitation, he strides forward, filled with self-importance. The Skeleton King's corpse, a relic that not even the greatest saints and saintesses had managed to recover, belongs to House Sephet of the Red Faith. And Nigel Sephet, the fearless, the bold, would be the one to claim it. But as he walks away, fate, or rather, poor planning, intervenes. His foot lands squarely on a hidden trap. In an instant, the mechanism triggers, unleashing an explosion. The blast throws him off balance, and his triumphant declaration turns into a horrified scream. Shuri barely has time to process what just happened before the realization hits him. Isaac had led them into this on purpose. He had baited them, lured them into their own downfall with nothing but silence and patience. He had known all along. And as the chaos unfolds, Isaac finally reacts. He laughs, delighted by the spectacle. Shuri carries Isaac on his back as Oculus effortlessly floats alongside them. They arrive in the second chamber of the treasury, its countless traps already triggered. The mines had exploded, the mechanisms had jammed, and now, the floor was littered with dazed, groaning children who had clearly failed to dodge disaster. Isaac notices Nigel's sacrifice and expresses his gratitude, but he's perplexed by the unwavering loyalty of the other children. One of them confidently declares that Isaac possesses divine energy. Another chimes in, pointing out that Isaac hails from the House of Saintesses. Of course he's exceptional, which obviously explained everything. They scoff at Nigel's ignorance, dismissing the ring as nothing more than an antique. Besides, someone from Yeshua could never be cowardly. Oculus observes that they have all witnessed Isaac's brilliance, even though he has no need for their devotion. Shuri, however, urges them to flee because the true terror in this chamber wasn't the traps or the mines or the mysterious artifacts. Warning that the true monster isn't any demon, it's the deceptively harmless-looking boy clinging to his back, Isaac himself. Paris Julius, the second prince of the Julius kingdom, regards Isaac with an air of reverence, declaring that if there were a saint among them, it would surely be him. With effortless grace, he introduces himself, expressing his delight in meeting the youngest lord of the House of Yeshua. The children, wide-eyed and murmuring among themselves, are startled to learn that the Julius kingdom lies to the east of Hela, and even more so that their prince carries a lot of divine blessing. Isaac, ever calculating, sees potential in the young royal. Before Isaac could entertain any plans of putting Paris to good use, Shuri calls out to him, pulling his attention toward their next challenge. As they press forward, they reach the entrance to the third chamber. The gate looms before them, its presence commanding. It speaks, announcing their arrival at the Chamber of Rumination. Isaac, Shuri, and the scattered children raise their gazes to the heavens, where two radiant angelic beings stand as gatekeepers. Their voices ring out, their divine glow unsettling, but their instructions were clear. Resounding through the chamber, they must prove their courage and determination. The children hesitate, then make their choice. Nigel is no longer their leader. Instead, they rally behind Isaac, convinced that following him is the only way to reach the next chamber unscathed. A spark of excitement spreads among them, and one voice rises above the rest, proclaiming their prize: the Skeleton King's body will be theirs. The gatekeeper declares the test to be simple: defeat them and claim their honor. Simple enough, right? Isaac, recalling Shuri's words about demonstrating courage, decides that fighting the gatekeeper is the right course of action. He is certain of his choice, eager for the challenge, and excited by the prospect of victory. Shuri, watching Isaac, is taken aback. Something is off. Isaac, in his usual reckless glory, might actually be onto something. A realization strikes: Isaac is right, and the gatekeepers are deceiving them. He reflects on their journey: the chamber of selection, where Isaac had recklessly charged ahead; the chamber of tranquility, where Isaac refused to restrain himself. Now, in the chamber of rumination, a pattern emerges. It is a clue. They must not fight the gatekeepers. They must not attack. They really must not attack. That is the true test. Isaac confidently points to a specific spot, expecting everyone to follow without question, catching Shuri off guard. Why is Isaac suddenly playing the role of a helpful guide? Why is Isaac helping them? Suspicion creeps in, but Shuri wonders if, despite being a devil, some remnant of Yeshua blood, Saintess blood, still runs through him. Perhaps, even faintly, he has inherited his virtue. Could he have misjudged Isaac? Before Shuri can dwell on the thought, Isaac lunges at the gatekeeper. Shock freezes Shuri in place. The gatekeeper, unfazed, declares his failure and retaliates with fire magic, hurling flames toward the children. Flames rain down toward the children, sending them diving, dodging, and shrieking in terror. Chaos erupts as the saints cry for help, their voices swallowed by the inferno, but the relentless attack continues. Shuri senses something is deeply wrong. Isaac, grinning wickedly, but Shuri calling him insane. Isaac watches, with eerie amusement as the chaos unfolds, revealing the truth with a gleeful smirk. It's all a deception. The figure before them is no ordinary gatekeeper, but a puppet crafted from the magic of the 14 elite demons, the Lying Doll. With chilling certainty, the doll sneers at the children, mocking them for their foolishness, taunting them for their misplaced trust. Saints should never believe so easily. Isaac's laughter echoes through the chamber, dark and delighted. He commands the Lying Doll to teach the children the harsh realities of life. Meanwhile, Shuri, gripped by frustration, can only watch as the nightmare unfolds, realizing, much too late, that whatever chance of rationality existed had officially gone up in flames. The children scattered in terror as the saint candidates combed the area, searching for the Yeshua children. With a smirk, Isaac activated a rank 6 holy art of invisibility, cloaking himself alongside Shuri and Paris, an emergency gift from his uncle. Grateful for the shared concealment, Paris received his companion's thanks before Isaac handed him a ring, ordinary in appearance, devoid of any obvious mystical traits. Confused, Paris wondered if his inexperience in battling demons had prompted Isaac to bestow the ring upon him. Still, he expressed his gratitude, vowing never to forget Isaac's generosity and promising to inform the king of his noble deed. Isaac, lounging in the shadows like a smug cat, watched the unsuspecting Paris slip the ring onto his finger. The moment it touched his skin, all the holy power Paris had carefully nurtured over the years rushed out of him, like water from a busted pipe. A scream ripped from Paris's throat, agony overwhelming him. Shuri's panicked cry followed, horror dawning in his eyes. Oculus, observing the chaos, nodded approvingly. Paris had the most holy power, making him the perfect target. Isaac, soaking up his stolen strength, didn't bother pretending to be remorseful. He simply let out the kind of laughter typically reserved for villains who are way too confident in their evil plans. Shuri, shaken and bewildered, turned to him with a single, desperate question. Where do you come from? As the children huddle together, one among them channels a sacred defense art, forming a shield against the Lying Doll, who coldly demands their submission. Another child, filled with resolve, steps forward and urges an attack. Without hesitation, they unleash a fierce blast of holy energy, but the Lying Doll remains unfazed. The energy dissipates harmlessly, and the child crumples to the ground. Confusion spreads as one of the children voices their alarm. Suddenly, a luminous ring materializes, and a saint candidate, caught in the sudden magic, plummets to the floor. Whatever holy power had been swirling through the room vanishes in an instant, snuffed out like a candle in a storm. The doll, now thoroughly baffled, stares at the scene. It had spent a lot of time crafting this grand deception. It hesitates, contemplating its next move and wondering where the children who succumbed to its deception have disappeared to. It was supposed to be the mastermind of this situation, but something was clearly wrong. Isaac, alongside Oculus, has drawn in the holy power of everyone on their side. As they advance toward the Lying Doll and the remaining children, Isaac waves a hand, as if dismissing their concerns, reassuring them that being weak is simply part of life. The Lying Doll ceases its assault the moment its target falls. Isaac calmly explains that it's safer for him to absorb their holy power and render them unconscious rather than let them suffer harm at the hands of the doll. As Oculus nears the completion of the absorption, a sudden surge of yellow energy bursts forth, crackling around him. Kian suddenly appears before Isaac and Oculus, his body crackling with surge energy. Isaac, still unsure where Kian had vanished to, stares in disbelief at his unexpected arrival. Shuri, caught off guard, is struck with both awe and shock. Whispers of Kian's brilliance ripple through the air, yet Shuri remains speechless, unable to fully grasp the extent of his abilities. With a commanding presence, Kian summons a powerful Holy Spirit, astonishing everyone with his skill at such a young age. However, the moment is short-lived, as Kian finds himself equally stunned by Isaac's power. Suspicion creeps into his mind. Had Isaac led the other children into another trap, just as he did in the first chamber? A kid stomped and huffed, furious at the accusation. Another one jumped in, passionately defending Isaac. Apparently, he'd been nothing but helpful, even guiding them through the try. Oculus, ever skeptical, suggests that the children may have fallen into a form of Stockholm syndrome, manipulated by their captor. Isaac, frustrated, insists that they've misunderstood him. But Kian remains unfazed, brushing aside their gratitude. He then challenges them directly, questioning whether they truly deserve the title of Saint Candidate. After all, they had been saved by a mere child, Isaac. The kid pointed a finger straight at him, demanding to know what right he had to criticize Isaac when he had been lurking in the shadows, doing absolutely nothing, while the others braved the traps. With conviction, the child acknowledges that Isaac embodies the qualities of a saint candidate far more than any of them. Determined to make things right, the kids decided that once they were out, they would tell the adults everything. They would make sure everyone knew that Isaac had helped them, and that Kian's group had done, well, nothing. Reminding him that if not for Isaac and his companions, they would still be trapped. The ground trembles violently, sending a surge of energy spiraling upward. As the group gathers before the massive gate, they realize they have successfully completed the second chamber. With an air of ominous grandeur, the gatekeeper congratulated them on their achievement before presenting them with a choice. They could take their treasure now, complete the test, and go home triumphant, or they could step forward, risk everything, and face a trial to enter the third chamber. A single child stepped forward, radiating misplaced confidence. They were sure, without a doubt, they wanted to proceed. The gatekeeper, amused by their certainty, urged them to consider carefully. It repeated the options once more, this time with an extra layer of menace. While triumph in the trial grants access to the third chamber's treasure, failure will lead to certain death. The weight of those words sent a shiver through the group. A few visibly paled. Oculus, always one to notice the finer details, sensed something massive in the gatekeeper's presence, a surge of immense mana. Isaac, recognizing the presence, suspects it belongs to a dragon, one he hasn't encountered in a long time. To make matters worse, he confirmed what they all feared. Failure in the third chamber would be met with death. Yet despite the looming danger, the children remain steadfast in their resolve. They believe that obtaining the treasure will solidify their status as saints. Another saint candidate steps forward, equally determined to proceed. The gatekeeper issues one final warning, but the children refuse to waver. Just as they brace themselves, the ground shakes once more, sending panic rippling through the group as chaos erupts. They brace themselves, their trial is about to begin. The gatekeeper stands before the gathered children saint candidates, announcing the beginning of the trial. Shuri and the other children wrestle with its demands, but Isaac, filled with excitement, finds it almost too easy. Before them looms a statue, its presence commanding reverence for God. Yet confusion spreads among the children. Rather than a divine figure, the statue depicts a cardinal. The figure instructs them to demonstrate their devotion, declaring that only those who prove their piety in its presence may advance to the third chamber. One of the saints sees the task as straightforward. Kneeling and offering a prayer should suffice. Surely, this is the right answer. A prayer, an offering of devotion. This is how you prove piety. However, skepticism quickly emerges. If this is truly a trial, wouldn't such a simple test be an inadequate display of faith? Doubt flickers among them, but Isaac's reaction is different. Anger. Kneeling before that statue? Unacceptable. He cannot stomach the demand to kneel to that face. That grin carved into stone, the very presence of it reeks of centuries of torment. Amon assumes the trial is merely a prayer to the supreme God, and he drops to his knees, voice steady, proclaiming his devotion without hesitation. He voices his worship, and the statue responds with praise. He is permitted to pass. The other children erupt in excitement. That's it? Just a prayer? Just a quick kneel and a few words? This trial is shaping up to be far less terrifying than expected. The children collectively exhale in relief. Yet Shuri's excitement quickly turns to disbelief. Isaac stands his ground, openly rejecting the notion of prayer. As others cautiously step forward, drawn toward the statue, tension begins to mount. Kian Barrett explains that prayer is a sacred practice taught by the Holy See. Urging the children to observe closely, he demonstrates the proper way to honor the supreme God, kneeling with two hands raised in reverence. Inspired by his example, the other children follow suit. One by one, they mimicked his every move. The statue, animated by their devotion, proclaims them worthy of glory and honor. However, one child hesitates. Startled by the boy's reluctance, the statue questions whether he is surrendering to despair. It demanded to know if the boy had chosen doom over devotion. Torn, the child finally attempts the gesture, but his uncertainty lingers. The statue swiveled its stone head, creaked ominously, and locked eyes on Isaac like it had just spotted a roach on its sacred carpet. The statue confronts Isaac's refusal to kneel, but Isaac resists. He'd have to be mad to submit. In his mind, kneeling to a talking rock was a hard no. His defiance stirs whispers among the other children, who begin to question whether he harbors doubts about his faith. Has the house of Yeshua begun to falter? As Shuri offers a solemn prayer to the statue, a bitter thought crosses his mind. You damned fool, Isaac, don't tarnish our family's name, just kneel and be done with it. Watching closely, Kian speculates aloud that Isaac may be sabotaging himself, hoping to lose his status as a saint candidate, especially with everything being recorded. In the end, Kian resigns himself to the idea that it's over for Isaac. No matter how gifted he is, without faith, he's finished. And yet, maybe all this worry is for nothing. The statue identifies Isaac as the child of the saintess and reprimands him for his disrespect. Unyielding, Isaac defiantly declares that he would rather perish than bow before it, challenging the statue to end his life instead. The statue took him seriously. It flared with dark energy, crackling wildly, as it announced that disrespect would not be tolerated. Shadows swirled around Isaac, and the air grew heavy. Those who dishonor it must face death. Isaac, undeterred, hurls curses at the statue and attempts to destroy it, even as Oculus urgently warns him of the imminent danger. To Isaac's astonishment, the statue did the most unexpected thing, commending his audacity rather than punishing him. It then announces that he has successfully passed the trial and may proceed to the third chamber. Kian and the others are taken aback, struggling to comprehend how Isaac could advance without offering a prayer. There had to be some mistake. The statue clarifies that Isaac was the only one worthy of entering the third chamber, having demonstrated true faith in God. It challenges their understanding, revealing that Isaac did not bow to a mere statue but to God himself, prompting them to question whether their faith instructs them to revere idols. Isaac had remained steadfast in his belief, refusing to worship a lifeless figure, because true faith wasn't about idolizing stone. Stunned, Shuri comes to a realization that despite its likeness to their deity, a statue remains an idol. The other children agree, recalling scriptures that warn against bowing to statues, even those fashioned in the image of God. This test had been rigged from the start, meant to trip up anyone too focused on appearances. The statue commends Isaac for maintaining his faith even in the face of death. Oculus, ever mischievous, mocks him. Faith, huh? Isaac, exasperated, snaps back, telling Oculus to shut up. Kian finds the situation intolerable, pointing out that Isaac is just a baby who can't even speak yet, making it impossible to know if his refusal to kneel was truly a matter of faith. Oculus agrees, acknowledging that while Kian is clearly upset, his point stands. Isaac nods in agreement with Oculus. Still, Kian presses further. If Isaac's faith is so strong, he argues, then he should bear a stigmata, a miraculous mark granted by divine power. Isaac looks startled. He's never even heard of a stigmata before. The other saint candidates started whispering. Every one of them had a stigmata. All except Isaac. He was the odd one out. Kian then points out that Isaac is the only saint candidate without one, a fact even the statue finds puzzling. Even the statue, which until then had been just a statue, suddenly shifted and tilted its marble head. That was weird. The statue finally speaks, explaining that Isaac's stigmata hasn't appeared yet because he is still an infant. But despite the explanation, the others remain uneasy. Kian was having none of it, muttering that this made zero sense. And amid all the tension, they're collectively stunned to realize, for the first time, that the statue has been capable of movement all along. The statue declares that infants have no need for stigmata. One saint candidate protests, arguing that if even a child without a stigmata is being allowed through, then those who do bear the mark certainly deserve entry as well. Another candidate steps forward with proof of their sainthood, requesting passage into the third chamber. The statue gatekeeper responds coolly, stating that a stigmata isn't granted merely because someone is exceptional. Then, unexpectedly, the gatekeeper asks if they all wish to enter the third chamber. The children glance at each other in surprise before breaking into excited chatter. But Shuri remains wary. Why are they being allowed through so easily? The gatekeeper steps aside, waving them forward. If you wish to hurl yourselves into the fire like moths, then so be it, he mutters. The children hesitate, puzzled by his words. As the gate creaks open, a surge of demonic energy rushes out. The candidates stagger, coughing as the foul air overtakes them. The gatekeeper informs them grimly that what they're feeling is the aura emanating from the Skeleton King's body. Those who can't withstand it, he says, don't belong here. One by one, the saint candidates collapse to their knees, choking on the corruption in the air. But Isaac stands beaming, eyes wide and sparkly, his mouth stretched into an unreasonably joyful smile. For the first time, he can feel something stir within him, and he states, "My body is in there." Isaac stands in awe, gazing upon the skeletal remains of the Skeleton King, the very body he once inhabited, now lying in the heart of the third chamber. He never imagined he would see it again after his self-destruction in the divine realm. The sheer energy radiating from the remains excites him, mana spilling into the air like an untamed force. The gatekeeper observes Isaac's unwavering expression, a warrior's resolve etched into his features. Yet, among the other children, unease stirs. They murmur among themselves, questioning Isaac's sanity. Has he lost his mind? The gatekeeper gives them one last chance to turn back, reminding them that it's not too late. Only those who can face death with a smile as Isaac does, should proceed. The rest may take a treasure from the second chamber and leave. Shuri shudders, eyes darting nervously toward the oppressive demonic energy ahead. How could they possibly break through? The uncertainty spreads, others voice their fears, choosing safety over glory. They would return and take their rewards from the second chamber rather than risk perishing here. But Kian steps forward, his voice cutting through their hesitations. He loudly announces that treasures are for weaklings, and they are all marching forward. To add an extra spice of madness, he requests that all traps in the third chamber be activated. His words carry weight, not merely a challenge, but a command. Shock ripples through the Saint candidates. Recklessness or confidence, it is unclear which drives Kian's decision. The gatekeeper regards him with scrutiny. "Is that truly your wish?" he asks, his voice heavy with meaning. Kian reminds the group that no previous saint or saintess had ever succeeded in retrieving the Skeleton King's corpse, not even the legendary Melissa had pulled off such a feat. A chilling achievement, or perhaps just a very bad omen. His words carry weight, stirring a mix of apprehension and intrigue among the candidates. The gatekeeper notes Kian's familiarity with the third chamber, sensing that he knows more than he lets on. Kian remains unwavering, convinced that Melissa would never allow children to perish needlessly. There must be a safeguard in place, something designed to prevent their demise. He refuses to take the easy path, insisting that the chamber be set to its normal difficulty. Only by facing its true challenge can they surpass the saintess herself. Isaac voices his skepticism, remarking on Kian's apparent recklessness. His unwavering determination unsettles some, yet the gatekeeper acknowledges his request. Setting the chamber to its intended difficulty, he sees it as the best way to uncover the true saint among them. As the gate swings open, waves of dark demonic energy spill forth, twisting through the air alongside a pulsing yellow sphere. The children recoil, shock and uncertainty etched into their faces as the true nature of the chamber reveals itself. Frustration erupts as a child lashes out, blaming Kian for dragging them into this ordeal. They were given no choice but to move forward, forced into a path they never wished to take. As demonic energy envelops their bodies, they begin to float, the unnatural force pulling them deeper into the chamber. Within the eerie space, the Skeleton King's body radiates a dark, pulsating energy. The moment they drop into the chamber, the weight of the atmosphere crushes them. Weakness sets in, their bodies shaking, coughs escaping, as if the air itself is venomous. Amid the suffering, Isaac's excitement stands in stark contrast. He marvels at how much the chamber resembles the demon realm. Oculus focuses on the skeletal remains, pointing out its sublimity. The form before them is incomplete, one skeleton arm. Isaac notes its striking presence, nearly calling it handsome before correcting himself, his body. He realizes the Skeleton King had been absorbing power slowly, letting it build within the confines of the chamber. Eamon gasps, stunned that such immense demonic energy is emanating from a single hand. Isaac scoffs. "No, of course not. That would be ridiculous. It's coming from a thumb." Just the thumb, the real piece of the Skeleton King, while the rest is nothing more than a replica. Suddenly, a figure emerges, a demon with curved horns, its presence radiating raw, suffocating energy. The children's screams pierce the chamber as terror takes hold. One of them stammers, realizing the gatekeeper from the second chamber was not the only demon lurking in this trial. The gatekeeper's warning lingers in the air. This is what they asked for when they demanded the removal of all safety measures in the third chamber. Now, there is no turning back. Isaac's gaze remains fixed on the demon, as it erupts in fury, its voice ringing through the chamber. Accusations fly. The children are trespassers, daring to claim the Skeleton King's remains. Fear grips them, and one child lashes out, blaming Kian for leading them into this impossible situation. They demand to know what he plans to do next. Kian remains unfazed, urging them to trust him. He promises they will all leave with a treasure. His confidence stands against the looming threat before them. The demon is no ordinary foe, it is one of the 14 elite, the Skeleton King's most loyal subordinate, personally trained for battle. Captured by the Papal House, it has endured years of confinement. Kian reveals his preparation, the holy art he has studied and refined specifically to counter this adversary. To him, the treasure is already within his grasp. A grin spreads across his face as he commands the demon to kneel. The radiant light of the Papal House flares, forcing the creature into submission. Awed, the children watch as the ancient power takes hold, bending even this formidable entity to Kian's will. Satisfaction flickers in his eyes. Only one task remains. He must claim the Skeleton King's body. Yet the struggle is not over. The demon, though weakened, still moves. It advances slowly, its presence heavy with dark energy. Its gaze locks onto Kian, suspicion laced in its voice. It questions whether he, too, seeks to claim the king's remains. Kian stands frozen, caught off guard as the weight of the demon's words sinks in. The battle is far from over. The treasury was supposed to be a place of ancient secrets, but right now, it was more like a disaster in progress. Outside the treasury's entrance, unease grips the gathered adults. Their connection to the demon familiar has vanished, and the chilling realization sets in. The seal on the third chamber has been broken. Count Simon, alarmed, speculates that one of the 14 elite demons could be lurking within. Riley, deeply concerned, fears that its presence could endanger everyone. Meanwhile, chaos unfolds in the monitoring chamber. The elders have disappeared after disabling the traps. This left the children completely exposed to whatever horrors lurked beyond that glowing gate. The urgency of the situation is undeniable. They must halt the ritual and evacuate the children at once. Confronted with an adversary beyond their ability to contain, there is no other choice. Suddenly, the treasury's gate flares with an intense, bewildering light. The adults outside exchange uncertain glances, wondering if the treasury is about to open. The glow grows stronger, adding to their confusion. A man issues a grave warning. Step away from the entrance. If demonic energy spills out, the consequences could be catastrophic. An elderly woman gestures toward a direction, yet she senses no trace of the demon's aura. This absence sparks speculation among the gathered adults. Could the children have triumphed over the elite demon? They ponder who among them might have delivered the final blow, with Kian emerging as the most likely candidate. His remarkable feat earns his praise, and whispers circulate that the children have vanquished the demon guarding the Skeleton King's remains. Simon turns to Riley, seeking confirmation. Who could have done it? Cardinal Barrett, ever observant, receives congratulations, for Kian had long been the favored saint candidate. Riley, however, seethes in frustration, biting his lip. Kian, with his holy lineage and the blood of the Pope, stands dignified, while Cardinal Barrett watches with satisfaction, acknowledging his efforts. Pleased with the turn of events, Cardinal Barrett sees an opportunity in disaster for the Papal House to assert dominance over Yeshua. Now that the Skeleton King's corpse is in their possession, he believes Yeshua's house has no choice but to submit. Their dignity, their honor, lost. A knowing smirk plays on Barrett's lips. Finally, the children begin to emerge from the treasury, much to the relief of those waiting anxiously. Riley's concern for Isaac and Shuri grows, his thoughts consumed by their safety. Slowly, one by one, the children step into the light, their escape complete. A tense crowd gathers outside the treasury, adults and children alike. One by one, the children emerge, seemingly unharmed. Riley scans them closely, noting their injuries, though none appear serious. A wave of unease washes over them as they wonder about the children who ventured into the third chamber. The silence lingers, thick with worry. Then, a cry cuts through the air. Someone spots the last of the children emerging. Amin and Shuri step forward. They look exhausted, as if they've aged 10 years in 10 minutes. As Simon calls for Aman, Joey rushes toward Shuri, his relief palpable. Without hesitation, he pulls his son into a tight embrace. His son is safe, not hurt, well, mostly. The smell of the treasury might cling to them forever, but that's a problem for another day. For now, they've survived. Barely. Riley's focus sharpens on Isaac, unease creeping in as he begins to worry about his whereabouts. Just then, Ray Barrett calls out to Kian, his tone urgent. "What are you holding?" he demands. Kian hesitates, his grip tightening. Ray asks the big question, the one everyone should have thought of earlier. Where exactly is the Skeleton King's body? Fear flashes across Kian's face. He can't bring himself to answer. Ray presses further, about to demand who instructed Kian to bring such an item, but his words are swallowed by sudden chaos. A surge of energy crackles in the air. Amid the commotion, a man shouts, pointing ahead. All eyes turn as a spirit wolf emerges from the disturbance, carrying Isaac effortlessly. A smirk plays on Isaac's lips as Riley steps forward, Ashley following close behind. She freezes, recognition dawning, as she looks at the wolf. Not just a wolf, a young holy dragon. It's the guardian of the treasury, except now, it wears the form of a wolf. Riley nods, the realization settling in. Though its appearance has changed, the energy it radiates is unmistakable. Even more puzzling is its presence here. The matriarch had welcomed the dragon into the treasury, but for it to appear now is unexpected. Then, a strange sound interrupts Riley's thoughts, a slurping noise. His gaze snaps to Isaac, and horror settles in. Isaac is sucking on the Skeleton King's thumb. A ripple of shock sweeps through the crowd. Cries of disgust rise in the air, screams mixing with demands to spit it out immediately. Isaac does not seem remotely concerned. An elder, instead of fainting like any reasonable person might, is in awe. Hey marvels, Isaac did it. He somehow managed to retrieve the Skeleton King's remains. Isaac, still smirking, still holding on to what is definitely not meant to be a chew toy, is clearly enjoying every second of the chaos. With a voice like a coiling shadow, Cardinal Ray demanded to know if Kian had truly handed over the Skeleton King's body to Isaac, a move he clearly deemed reckless. But Ray justified the decision coldly, claiming that allowing the host to save face was a virtue befitting a saint. The wolf growled in dissent. Foolishness, it snarled. According to the wolf, Isaac retrieved the Skeleton King's corpse himself. In that moment, Isaac grinning ominously, sharp teeth gleaming, a skeletal thumb resting on his lips as he flashed a careless peace sign. The wolf, unimpressed, called everyone fools. The cardinal's eyes widened in disbelief. Kian's mind reeled back to what he witnessed. In the treasury, the demon loomed, still bound to Kian's will, yet immune to the radiant force of his golden holy arts. It hissed, filthy trash, and advanced on the children. Die, it commanded. Kian shrieked. Chaos erupted, children fleeing, screaming in terror until the ground erupted in a blinding explosion. Then, silence shattered. A defense barrier shimmered into place, catching everyone off guard. To their astonishment, the energy radiated with blue holy light. Isaac had cast it. The demon snarled, cursing the saint candidates. Why do you hound the great Skeleton King? It roared, launching another attack. But Isaac stood his ground, holy light burning in his clenched fist. You don't even recognize your master, he growled, before hurling his power forward. Uncertainty rippled through the group. The presence of a holy dragon meant there could be no deception. Isaac must have truly recovered the Skeleton King's body. All eyes turned to Kian, realization dawning. He had taken no action. Riley, moved by the dragon's sacred aura, silently acknowledged its wisdom. The situation, however, was far from reassuring. 14 elite demons had been unleashed, far too powerful for any group of children. Their sudden reappearance begged a troubling question: who had broken the seal? The answer came with grim clarity. The wolf revealed that Kian, the pale-haired boy, had requested the seal's release. Whispers spread among the children as pieces of the puzzle began falling into place. Kian had triggered every trap in the third chamber, driving them forward with no regard for their safety. They had nearly perished. Shock gave way to disbelief, and disbelief to judgment. A child of the papal house, acting with such recklessness, how could it be possible? And in that moment, they all realized, had Isaac not intervened, had he not taken on the demons himself, things might have ended in tragedy. Cardinal looked like he was about to pop a vein. He was fuming because Isaac, the quiet kid from the Yeshua house who barely made the cut for sainthood, had apparently knocked Kian from the elite Barrett house flat on his back. Yet, others marveled at the boy's strength. A child unfit to be a saint, wielding power that rivaled their elite, perhaps House Yeshua had been rebuilding him all along. Riley, quiet with pride, watched as Isaac handled himself with surprising poise. Isaac refused to relinquish the bone. Isaac was still too busy chewing on a bone, one that used to belong to the Skeleton King. It wasn't a snack, it was a manna-charged gourmet delight. People around him were begging him to stop gnawing on it like a magical chew toy. One bold soul tried to snatch it, but Isaac wasn't having it. The manna it contained was rich, delicious, even. They dared to snatch it away, but Isaac stand back firm. He absorbed the energy hungrily. Was it the influence of the survival origin? The flow of mana surged through him, accelerating as if drawn to something primal within. Among the observers, an elder looked on in astonishment. Isaac had surpassed expectations again. The matriarch would be thrilled. Riley nodded in agreement, a quiet smile forming as she realized the truth. With the Skeleton King's body recovered, they could finally use tracking arts to locate him. Isaac kept gnawing at the bone, beginning to understand. They hadn't retrieved the body as a trophy, they intended to use it. They didn't just want the body for a funeral, they wanted to use it as a GPS. To tear the Skeleton King apart. Again, they reached for the skeletal relic. Again, Isaac refused. The revelation unsettled him. This was more than recovering a relic. It was vengeance, centuries old. They wanted the bone, the thumb specifically, to settle 150 years of resentment. And then, without warning, Isaac looked around at all the eager faces, and swallowed it, whole, like a rebellious pelican. Silence fell, followed by chaos. The wolf, who up to this point had been lurking around, turned tail and sprinted into the distance, yelling something about everyone being completely bonkers and how they should never speak again.